Tonight, we're exploring the weirdest legendary mysteries in the world of Pokémon that nobody can fully explain. This is a fascinating topic, but I'll keep my narration calm to ensure you can still drift off to sleep. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us consistently. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment night 1. Now back to the video. The world of Pokémon is often presented as a place of vibrant colours, enduring friendships, and the thrill of the journey. It through the eyes of young trainers, stepping out into the tall grass for the first time, fueled by the simple ambition of becoming a champion. But beneath that bright, accessible surface lies a foundation built upon ancient silence, fractured myths, and shadows that refuse to retreat even in the light of 100 Pokédex entries. For over 25 years, we have collected these creatures, battled with them, and traded them across the globe. Yet the more we learn about the legendary entities that govern this universe, the more we realise how little we actually know. We are told that Arceus shaped the cosmos with 1,000 arms, that Dialga and Palkia breathe life into the very fabric of time and space, and that Giratina watches from a world where physics itself is turned inside out. But as you peel back the layers of official history, you find something far more unsettling than a simple creation myth. You find gaps in the record that feel intentional. You find ancient ruins inscribed with a language that predates modern civilization, sealed doors that were never meant to be opened, and legendary beings whose true origins are whispered about in folklore, but never confirmed by science. Think about the 3 legendary beasts of the Johto region. We are told they perished in a fire at the Brass Tower and were resurrected by the rainbow wings of Ho-Oh. It is a beautiful story of rebirth and divine intervention. But the mystery doesn't lie in their resurrection, it lies in their death. Who were they before the fire? What unnamed, forgotten Pokémon were lost to the flames, only to be transformed into the icons of thunder, fire, and wind we know today? The games never tell us. They leave us with a trio of ghosts, wearing the masks of gods, wandering the continent like a half-remembered dream. Or consider the original dragon of the Unova region. We know that Reshiram and Zekrom were once a single, omnipotent entity that split apart due to the conflicting ideals of 2 brothers. We even see the leftover husk of that split in the form of Kyurem, a frozen shell of a creature that yearns to be whole again. But no matter how many fossils we dig up or how many ancient texts we translate, the true form of that original dragon remains a complete enigma. It is a ghost in the machine of history, a power so great that the universe itself seemingly conspired to erase its image from memory. The stakes of these mysteries go beyond simple curiosity. They challenge our understanding of what the Pokémon world actually is. Is it a world of nature and biology, or is it a playground for cosmic horrors and forgotten deities? When we look at the Unown, those strange letter-like entities that inhabit the hidden corners of the world, we aren't just looking at a weird species of psychic Pokémon. We are looking at a living alphabet that seems to bridge the gap between language and reality itself. They appear in ruins across multiple regions, always connected to the same architectural motifs and the same sense of profound, ancient weight. Why does the universe respond to their presence? Why do they appear in the wake of legendary disturbances? There is a sense that the very ground the player walks on is a thin crust over a deep, dark ocean of history that we are only just beginning to map. This journey we are embarking on tonight isn't just about listing facts or checking off boxes in a digital encyclopedia. It's about leaning into the quiet, eerie atmosphere that settles over the tall grass when the sun goes down. It's about the ghost girl in Lumiose City who vanishes into the darkness, leaving behind nothing but a cryptic message. It's about the GS Ball, a golden artifact that held the promise of a revolution, but was quietly tucked away in a drawer and forgotten by time. It's about the Great Pokémon War, a conflict that scarred the land and left behind a generation of veterans like Lieutenant Surge, who speak of horrors that the bright animations of the anime could never fully capture. These are the threads that don't quite fit the tapestry. They are the glitches in the lore that suggest a much larger, much stranger story happening just out of frame. As we move through these chapters, I want you to imagine the wind howling through the ruins of Alph, or the rhythmic, unsettling ticking of the clocks in the Sinnoh temples. We are going to look at the legendary titans, the Regis, and the terrifying implications of the Braille puzzles that were used to seal them away. Why were they feared so much by the people of the past? What did they do to deserve an eternal prison of rock, ice, and steel? We will explore the chilling connection between Cubone and the mother it lost, a mystery that has fueled decades of speculation and touches on the rare, heavy subject of death in a world meant for children. We will dive into the mystery of Mirage Island, a place that exists only on the fringes of possibility, appearing and disappearing like a digital fever dream. There is a specific kind of peace that comes from exploring these unresolved questions. In a modern world where every answer is a search engine result away, the Pokémon franchise has managed to keep its secrets close to its chest. It allows the player to be an archaeologist, a historian, and a dreamer. It reminds us that even in a world where we can capture the gods of time and space in a small metal sphere, there are still things that defy explanation. There are still shadows in the corner of the room that we can't quite identify, so settle in, let the glow of the screen fade into the background. We are going to step away from the path, past the signs and the safety of the Pokémon centers, and into the deep, unresolved history of a world that is far older and far weirder than it appears. We are looking for the truth behind the myths. Even if the truth is something we were never meant to find, the Pokémon world has always presented itself as a place of bright colours, friendly battles, and the simple joy of catching them all. But if you look closer, if you listen to the silence between the cheerful music tracks, you start to notice something strange. The world of Pokémon is built on a foundation of whispers, half-remembered stories, and gaps in the historical record that have never been filled. The franchise has always mixed mainline game lore, with Pokédex entries, mythic ruins, hidden events, anime-only retellings, event distributions, and even cut content or unused data. The result is a universe where some legends feel fully explained, while others remain deliberately ambiguous, and that ambiguity is not an accident. It is the architecture of silence itself. Think about the very first time you picked up a Pokédex. It was presented to you as a scientific tool, a digital encyclopedia that would catalogue every creature you encountered. But from the very beginning, the Pokédex was never truly scientific. It was a collection of folklore disguised as data. The entries were written by someone or some group, and they were filled with speculation, exaggeration, and outright contradiction. A single Pokémon species might have one entry that claims it can lift a mountain, and another entry that says it is shy and hides in caves. Which one is true? The answer is that neither is fully true, because the Pokédex is not a record of facts, it is a record of stories, and stories, as we know, are told by unreliable narrators. This is the first and most important mystery of the Pokémon world. The very tool we use to understand it is itself a puzzle. The Pokédex serves as a collection of folklore rather than scientific fact. It tells us what people believe, not necessarily what is real. And that distinction is everything. Because once you accept that the Pokédex is unreliable, you start to see the cracks in the entire world. The eerie atmosphere of early Kanto was not just a product of limited graphics or a spooky soundtrack. It was the birth of urban legends within the game itself. Lavender Town, Pokémon Tower, the ghost of Marowak, the mysterious war that segments of a larger story that the game never fully told. They were the shadows that the bright world of Pokémon cast, and they have only grown deeper with time. So tonight, we are setting the stage for a 4.5-hour journey into the franchise's deepest shadows. We are going to explore the legends that nobody can fully explain, the mysteries that have fueled speculation for years, and the questions that the games themselves seem to refuse to answer. And we are going to start at the very beginning, with the origin of everything. The creation myth of the Pokémon universe is centered on Arceus, a being said to have hatched from an egg in a void and shaped the world. Arceus debuted in Pokémon Diamond and Pearl in Japan in 2006 and internationally in 2007. It is framed as the creator deity of the Pokémon universe. In official lore, it hatched from an egg in a void and shaped the world. But here is the mystery. Is Arceus literally the supreme creator, or is this a mythological interpretation of a very powerful Pokémon? Its godlike role is stronger than most others in the franchise, but the games still leave room for interpretation. The presence of plates, the multi-type ability, and later lore expansions all reinforce its divinity without fully explaining it. And that is the pattern. The games give you just enough to believe, but never enough to know for sure. Then, there are also introduced in Dialga Government, Palkia govern space. Their role is central to mythology. But are they cosmic forces embodied as Pokémon, or actual beings controlling universal laws? The games never fully settle whether they are the concept or merely guardians of the concept. And then there is Giratina, associated with the Distortion world and the antimatter-like inverse realm. In Pokémon Platinum, released in 2008, its role was expanded dramatically. Giratina is often read as a banished or exiled counterpart to the creator trio. The Distortion world is one of the series' strangest settings. It suggests a reality with different physical rules, but the exact nature of that realm remains intentionally unclear. These are not just powerful creatures. They are questions given form, and the questions themselves are more important than any answer could be, because the Pokémon world is not a place where mysteries are solved. It is a place where mysteries are preserved. Consider the legendary beasts of Johto. Entei, Raikou and Suicune have a core origin story associated with the burned tower. In the lore, 3 unnamed Pokémon died in a fire, and Ho-Oh resurrected them into the legendary beasts. This origin became part of the franchise in the Generation 2 era, with Pokémon Gold and Silver in Japan in 1999 and internationally in 2000, and it was echoed and clarified in later games and media. But here is the key mystery. We do not officially know what the 3 original Pokémon were. That is one of the biggest enduring lore questions in Pokémon. The beasts are presented as transformed beings, not newly created species. The identity of their original forms is never confirmed. This fuels theories that they were unnamed early species, existing Pokémon with altered identities, or symbolic rather than literal resurrection. The beasts represent rebirth, divine intervention, and the idea that legend in Pokémon is often incomplete. And then there is the original dragon of Unova, introduced in Pokémon Black and White in Japan in 2010 and internationally in 2011. The story tells of one original dragon split into 3. Reshiram represents truth, Zekrom represents ideals, and Kyurem is the incomplete husk left behind. The core mystery is simple. What exactly was the original dragon? The games strongly imply a legendary split, but do not fully define whether this was a literal biological event, a mythologized historical event, or a symbolic representation of philosophical division. Kyurem is presented as the empty shell left behind. In Pokémon Black 2 and White 2, released in 2012, the DNA splicers allow Kyurem to fuse with Reshiram or Zekrom into White Kyurem or Black Kyurem. The fusion mechanic makes Kyurem feel like the missing half of a greater whole. Yet the games still do not fully explain the original dragon true nature. Kyurem design and lore suggest incompleteness, absence, and loss. The pattern is clear. Pokémon repeatedly introduces legendary groups whose origin is only partially explained. The Regis are ancient sealed golems found in chambers requiring Braille decoding. The use of Braille is unusual and iconic. The chambers imply an ancient civilization with advanced knowledge and ritual sealing practices. The lore gives instructions that feel archaeological, not just mythical. Who built the ruins? Why are these Pokémon sealed? Why Braille specifically? Is the civilization the same one referenced in multiple regions, or are these separate traditions using similar symbolic systems? The questions multiply and the answers never come. Then there are the Unown, introduced in Pokémon Gold and Silver. They appear as alphabet-like entities, with forms resembling letters and punctuation. They are connected to mysterious ruins and psychic phenomena. But why are they so weird? They seem less like ordinary creatures and more like living symbols. Their relation to language, reality, and archaeology is never fully explained. They are often linked to dimensions, ancient inscriptions, and hidden powers. Are Unown a species, a psychic collective, a manifestation of language, or a living alphabet from another realm? Because the games never fully define them, Unown remain one of the franchise's most uncanny legendary adjacent mysteries. And then there are the mysteries that feel almost human. The ghost girl in Lumiose City, who appears in a building and speaks cryptically. The scene is brief, unexplained, and unsettling. The game never fully resolves who she is in a way that satisfies all players. It captures the urban legend feeling Pokémon can accidentally create. Lavender Town, with its haunting music and ghost-themed atmosphere, remains one of the earliest examples of Pokémon treating death directly. The ghost of Marowak in Pokémon Tower is eventually revealed to be the spirit of a Marowak, but the combination of child-friendly creature collecting with grief and memorialization made a lasting impression. And then there is Cubone, said to wear the skull of its dead mother. Over the years, fans developed the theory that Cubone is a baby Kangaskhan after separation or death of the parent. This theory has never been confirmed. Early Sprite and Pokédex associations seem to invite it. Later material did not definitively settle the relationship. It is one of the most famous fan theories in Pokémon history. The GS Ball appeared in the anime during the Johto arc. It was a mysterious golden Pokéball that could not be opened or teleported normally. Ash and friends were told to deliver it to Kurt, the Apricorn Pokéball expert. It became one of the anime's longest-running unresolved plot objects. It was eventually dropped from the anime continuity without a satisfying reveal. It is a great example of a Pokémon mystery that was set up like a major arc, then abandoned. Mirage Island, introduced in the Ruby and Sapphire era, is an extremely rare location that appears only under specific conditions, tied to invisible or hidden game checks. Many players never saw it naturally. It feels like a secret island that may as well not exist. Because its appearance depends on hidden mechanics, it became a legend in the fan community. It is a perfect example of Pokémon turning game logic itself into folklore. And then there are the event-only mystery doors in Pokémon Platinum. The game contains some event-linked content that was fully coded, but not normally accessible without distribution. This included special areas tied to Darkrai and Shaymin. These are examples of mystery content that was partially real, partially hidden, and partially time-limited by Nintendo event distribution. Players often knew the content existed but could not access it naturally. These event structures created a sense that the game world had secrets locked away behind official promotion. That makes the legends feel physically real but just out of reach. The lake guardians of Sinnoh, Ook and Azelf were introduced in Diamond. They represent knowledge, emotion, and willpower. They appear as local deities or spirit-like beings. Their role in shaping human and Pokémon civilization is never fully mapped out. Sinnoh's myth cycle is one of the most developed in the franchise, but still not fully explained. And the legendary titans, ancient giants, and other unfinished histories continue the pattern. The franchise thrives on presenting an old story, a few surviving clues, and no final answer. Across multiple regions, Pokémon repeatedly references ancient temples, sealed chambers, strange inscriptions, and extinct or forgotten civilizations. A lot of Pokémon mystery comes from the same underlying design philosophy. The world had a past before the player arrived. That past was filled with mythic events, and the player only gets fragments. That makes Pokémon feel like a world with real history, rather than just a collection of levels and battles. The Great Pokémon War mentioned in Generation 1 Kanto lore is one of the biggest background history mysteries. The original games and later material reference a past war in the Pokémon world. Lieutenant Surge is especially associated with this in fan discussion because of his comments implying military experience. The war is never fully detailed. We do not know who fought whom, how widespread it was, or what effect it had on the modern Pokémon world. It hints that the Pokémon setting has a serious geopolitical past hidden beneath the cheerful surface. And then there is Mew, long associated with hidden lore. The journals in Cinnabar Island, Pokémon Mansion, mention Mew and its discovery in Guyana. Mew was one of the franchise's earliest mythical Pokémon. It became a center of origin speculation because it is said to contain the DNA of all Pokémon species. Mewtwo was created through genetic engineering from Mew. It debuted in the original games and became central to the franchise themes of cloning, science, and hubris. The Mansion journals imply a scientific history that is only partially revealed. The exact extent of Mew's role as the origin of all Pokémon DNA remains mythic more than scientific, and that brings us to the next chapter. Because the journals on Cinnabar Island are not just a record of discovery, they are a confession. They tell a story of ambition, of playing God, and of the consequences that follow. And they are only the beginning of a much deeper mystery that leads us into the heart of what Pokémon truly is. That story is waiting for us in Chapter 2, where we will open the pages of the Cinnabar Island journals and see what they really say. In the last chapter, we talked about how the Pokédex might not be a textbook at all, but a collection of folklore, of stories passed down through generations, each entry a little more distorted than the last. That idea of unreliable history is nowhere more chilling, more tangible than on the shores of Cinnabar, because here We don't have folklore, we have journals, we have data, we have the scorched, half-destroyed records of a science that went too far. If you want to understand the weirdest legendary mysteries in Pokémon, you have to start at the moment. Legend was captured, caged, and cloned. And that story begins in a mansion that was once a laboratory, now abandoned. Its walls blackened by a fire that was never fully explained. The Pokémon Mansion on Cinnabar Island is not a temple or a ruin from some ancient civilization. It is a crime scene, and the evidence is still there, scattered across the floor in the form of burnt notes, diaries left behind by researchers who vanished. When you walk through that mansion in the games, you find journal entries, fragments of a story that is told with a cold clinical detachment. There is no poetry here, no myth, just a logbook. The first entry describes an expedition to the deep jungles of Guyana in South America. A new species of Pokémon was discovered. It was incredibly rare, incredibly powerful, and it contained the genetic code of every single Pokémon known to exist. They called it Mew. The language in those journals is what makes it so unsettling. It is not the language of a discoverer in awe, it is the language of a scientist who has just found the raw material for an experiment. There is no reverence, there is only observation. They describe Mew's abilities, its playful nature, its psychic power, but they do so in the way a biologist might describe a new species of beetle. It is clinical, it is cold, and it is the first step down a path that leads directly to the ethical void at the heart of the Pokémon world, because the next entry is dated February 6th, and on that day, something was born. The journals do not call it a Pokémon. They do not call it a child, they call it the result. Mewtwo was not born from a mother. It was engineered in a tank, its genetic code spliced and altered, its power amplified beyond any natural limit. The journal entry for February 6th is the most chilling of all. It simply states the date, the time, and the fact that the project was a success. There is no celebration, no moral reflection, just a log of a birth that should never have happened. And then, the fire. The mansion burned, the scientists disappeared. We never learn their names. We never learn what happened to them. Did they die in the flames? Did they flee? Were they consumed by the very thing they created? The journals end abruptly, mid-sentence, as if the writer was interrupted. The laboratory was destroyed, but Mewtwo survived. It escaped into the world, a living testament to the fact that some knowledge should never have been pursued. The mystery of the Cinnabar Island journals is not just about Mew or Mewtwo. It is about the silence that follows. The game gives us these fragments, these burnt pages, and then it moves on. It never asks us to find out who those scientists were. It never asks us to question the morality of what they did. It just presents the evidence and leaves us to sit with it. The mansion remains on that island, a hollow shell, a monument to hubris. And the questions remain unanswered. What drove them to create a god? And what happened to the men who played that role? That feeling of an unresolved past, of a tragedy that happened just off screen, is the same feeling you get when you walk into the Pokémon Tower in Lavender Town. The air changes there, the music changes, and you start to realise that the world of Pokémon has a history it does not want to talk about. That is where we are going next. Into the tower, to meet a ghost that has been waiting for you since 1996. From the cold clinical journals of Cinnabar Island, we now turn to a place where the scientific gives way to the spectral. If the Pokémon Mansion was a document of human ambition and its consequences, then Lavender Town is a monument to something far older and far quieter: grief. It is a tonal shift so abrupt, so deliberate, that it has never quite been replicated in the mainline series. And it begins not with the battle, but with the funeral. You arrive in Lavender Town, and the first thing that hits you is the music. It is not the upbeat, adventurous theme of a new route. It is a lullaby, but one played in a minor key. A melody that feels like it is remembering something you have forgotten. The town itself is small, almost insignificant on the map, but it is dominated by a single structure, Pokémon Tower, a 7-story pagoda that rises into the grey sky, a vertical cemetery for digital creatures. And this is where the game asks you to do something it has never asked you to do before. It asks you to confront the idea that death is not just a fade to black, not just a trip to the Pokémon Center. It is permanent. The tower is a labyrinth of grief. Each floor is filled with graves, with trainers mourning their partners, with the palpable weight of loss. And then you see it, a ghost, a sprite that is clearly a Pokémon, but it is translucent, flickering, untouchable. You cannot fight it. You cannot catch it. You cannot even interact with it in any meaningful way. The game simply presents it to you as a mystery, a locked door in the form of a spectre. This is a mechanical puzzle, but it is also a narrative one. The game is telling you that you do not have the tools to understand this yet. You need something else. You need the Sylph Scope. The Sylph Scope is a piece of technology, a device that allows you to see the invisible. But in the context of Pokémon Tower, it is something far more profound. It is a tool for revelation, for forcing the truth into the light. When you finally return to the tower with the scope, the ghost is no longer a mysterious, untouchable sprite. It becomes a Marowak, a mother, and the story that unfolds is one of the most tragic in the entire franchise. This Marowak was not a wild Pokémon. She was a mother protecting her child, a Cubone, and she was killed, murdered by members of Team Rocket, who were trying to force the Cubone into their service. Her spirit could not move on. It was trapped in the tower, bound by grief and rage. And when you finally face her, you are not fighting a monster. You are fighting a ghost who cannot let go. The battle is not about strength. It is about closure. And when you defeat her, her spirit is finally released. She leaves behind a single item, a thick club, the bone she carried in life. It is a moment of profound sadness, a reminder that the world of Pokémon, for all its bright colours and friendly creatures, has a dark underbelly. And this is why Lavender Town remains the psychological anchor for the series' darker side. It is not just a spooky location. It is a place where the game stops being about collecting and battling and starts being about memory and loss. The tonal shift is not accidental. It is a deliberate choice by the developers to introduce a theme that most games aimed at children would avoid entirely: the permanence of death. The idea that some things cannot be undone, that some losses are final. The Marowak mother is not revived. She is not healed. She is simply allowed to rest. And that is a powerful, unsettling lesson for a game that is otherwise about growth, evolution, and the endless cycle of catching and training. It is a reminder that the world has a history, and that history is not always happy. This is the ghost of Lavender Town, a ghost that cannot be fought without the right tool, a ghost that is not a puzzle to be solved, but a story to be honoured. And it sets the stage for something even darker, something that the games only hint at in the background, a conflict that shaped the world before you ever picked up a Pokéball, a war. Because if Lavender Town taught us anything, it is that the past does not stay buried, it haunts the present. And in the next chapter, we will explore the ghost of that war, the one that Lieutenant Surge fought in, the one that left scars on the Kanto region that no Pokémon Center can heal, the Great Pokémon War. The previous chapter left us standing in the Pokémon Tower, staring at the ghost of a Marowak that was never truly a ghost at all, just a grieving mother, her spirit bound to this world by loss. But that moment, that rare acknowledgement of death in a children's game, opens a door to something far darker, because if Pokémon acknowledges death, then it must also acknowledge what causes death on a massive scale. And buried in the original games, hidden in plain sight, is a single word that changes everything: war. Lieutenant Surge stands in his gym in Vermilion City, a man who looks like he belongs in a different kind of story. He's tall, muscular, with a crew cut and a uniform that screams military service. And when you defeat him, he says something that has haunted players for decades. He says, quote, "My electric Pokemon saved me during the war," end quote. That's it. That's all we get. One line, dropped like a grenade into the middle of a cheerful adventure about catching cute creatures. No context, no follow-up, no explanation of what war he's talking about, who fought in it, or when it happened. Just that one cryptic confession. And then he moves on, and the game expects you to do the same. But you can't. Not if you're paying attention. Because that single sentence implies an entire history that the Pokémon world has never fully acknowledged. A war, a real war, with battles and casualties and electric Pokémon saving lives on the front lines. And if you start looking for evidence of this conflict, you realize it's everywhere, woven into the fabric of Kanto, like scars that never fully healed. Consider the world you explore in the original games. The routes are filled with young trainers, mostly children, challenging each other to friendly battles. But where are the adults? Where are the fathers, the uncles, the older brothers? Look at the population of Kanto in the first generation. The vast majority of non-player characters are either elderly, female, or very young. The men of fighting age are conspicuously absent. There's a reason for that. And it's not just game design. The world of Pokémon Red and Blue feels like a world in recovery. A world that has lost an entire generation of its male population to something terrible. And then there are the environmental clues. The abandoned Pokémon mansion on Cinnabar Island, with its scorched journals and broken equipment, hints at scientific hubris, not war. But the burned-down Pokémon Tower in Lavender Town, the one we just explored, is a memorial, a place where the dead are honoured. And why would a peaceful world need such a large memorial? Unless there was a sudden catastrophic loss of life. The tower is filled with the graves of Pokémon, yes, but the implication lingers. If Pokémon died in great numbers, so did their trainers. Lieutenant Surge himself is the most direct evidence. He's not just a gym leader, he's a veteran, and his choice of Pokémon is telling. Electric types. Fast, powerful, and capable of delivering shocks that could disable machinery or even other Pokémon in a combat scenario. He says they saved him, which implies he was in danger, that the war was brutal enough, that even a hardened soldier needed his Pokémon to survive. What kind of war was it? Was it fought between regions? Between humans and Pokémon? The games never say, and that silence is the most chilling part. But there's another layer to this mystery, one that hits closer to home. The player character in Pokémon Red and Blue is a child. You start your journey at age 10, leaving home for the first time, venturing out into a world that seems safe and full of adventure. But if the war happened recently enough that Lieutenant Surge is still in active service, still haunted by his memories, then the player character is part of a post-war generation. You are the child of a world that survived something terrible. Your journey is not just about collecting badges. It's about reclaiming a sense of normalcy, about proving that the next generation can be stronger than the last. Think about your rival, Blue. He's aggressive, competitive, almost hostile. He's not just a friendly rival. He's someone with something to prove. Maybe that's just his personality. But maybe it's also a symptom of a world where competition is encouraged. Because cooperation failed once before. The entire Pokémon League system, with its emphasis on strength and victory, takes on a darker tone when viewed through the lens of a post-war society. It's not just a game. It's a training ground for a generation that might need to defend itself again. And then there's the question of what caused the war. Some fans have speculated that it was a conflict between Kanto and Johto, two regions that share a history and a border. Others have pointed to the existence of Team Rocket, a criminal organization that seems to have military-level resources and discipline. Giovanni, their leader, is a gym leader himself, a man who commands respect and fear. Could Team Rocket be a remnant of the war, a group of soldiers who never stopped fighting? Or was the war something else entirely? Something involving legendary Pokémon that we still don't fully understand. The truth is, we may never know. Game Freak has never officially expanded on Lieutenant Surge's comment. Later generations, with their deeper lore and more detailed histories, have chosen to leave this particular thread untouched. It remains a mystery, a fragment of a story that was never told, and that's what makes it so compelling. In a world where so much is explained, where Pokédex entries give us scientific-sounding facts about every creature, the war is a blank space, a wound that was never healed, a story that was never written. But the clues are there. If you know where to look, the empty routes, the missing fathers, the memorial towers, the veteran with his electric Pokémon. They all point to a past that the games want you to forget, but that they can't quite hide. And as you walk through Kanto, challenging gyms and catching Pokémon, you are walking through the aftermath of something terrible. You are the hope of a world that has already seen its darkest day. This is the quiet horror at the heart of Pokémon, not ghosts or monsters, but the memory of a war that no one talks about. A war that shaped the world you explore, that left its mark on every character you meet, and that made the simple act of becoming a Pokémon champion feel like an act of defiance. Because in a world that has known conflict, peace is not a given, it's something you have to fight for. And that brings us to another ruin, another scar on the landscape of the Pokémon world, a burned tower in Johto, where 3 Pokémon died in a fire, and where a legend was born from the ashes. That story, the story of the burned tower secret, is waiting for us in the next chapter. The previous chapter left us standing in the ruins of Kanto, staring at the ghost of a war that was never officially acknowledged. Lieutenant Surge's words about electric Pokémon saving him during combat hinted at a conflict that reshaped the adult population of an entire region. But that war, like so many mysteries in this world, left behind only fragments. And fragments are all we have when we cross the sea to Johto, where a different kind of ruin waits in Ecruteak City. There is a tower in Ecruteak that was once called the Brass Tower. It stood as a twin to the Bell Tower, both of them ancient structures, built long before the modern era of Pokémon training. The Bell Tower still stands, its 9 floors reaching toward the sky, home to Ho-Oh, the rainbow-winged Pokémon that few have ever seen. But the Brass Tower is a skeleton. It is a burned husk, its upper floors collapsed, its interior scarred by fire so intense that the stone itself seems to remember the heat. The people of Ecruteak call it the Burned Tower now, and they tell a story about the night it fell. That night, a lightning storm raged over Johto. The sky split open again and again, and one bolt struck the Brass Tower directly. The old wooden beams caught fire instantly, and the flames spread faster than anyone could react. The tower was not just a monument, it was a home. Inside that tower, 3 Pokémon lived, unnamed and unremarkable, at least by the standards of legend. They were not legendary beasts. They were not worshipped or feared. They were simply 3 creatures that had chosen the tower as their shelter. And when the fire consumed the structure, they perished. The fire burned for 3 days. When it finally died, the tower was hollow, and the 3 Pokémon were gone. But Ho-Oh, the guardian of the Bell Tower, had witnessed the tragedy, and Ho-Oh did something that no other Pokémon in recorded history has ever been confirmed to do. It brought them back. Resurrection in the Pokémon world is a concept that appears only in the most mythic of contexts. There is no scientific explanation for it. The journals on Cinnabar Island describe cloning, genetic engineering, and the manipulation of life at the molecular level. But they never describe true resurrection. Ho-Oh's power seems to exist outside the rules that govern every other creature. When it descended upon the ashes of the Brass Tower, it did not simply heal the 3 Pokémon, it transformed them. It remade them into something entirely new. Something that reflected the forces that had killed them. The lightning that struck the tower became the essence of Raikou, the Thunder Beast. Its fur crackles with electricity, and its roar sounds like a storm breaking overhead. The fire that consumed the tower became the essence of Entei, the volcano Pokémon. Its mane burns with the heat of 1,000 forges, and its footsteps leave scorch marks on the earth. And the rain that eventually fell to extinguish the flames became the essence of Suicune, the Aurora Pokémon. Its body is cool and flowing, and it is said to purify water wherever it runs. But here is the mystery that has never been solved. What were the 3 original Pokémon? We know their silhouettes only through implication. The burned tower in the games shows faint outlines on the floor, shapes that suggest the forms of the original inhabitants before Ho-Oh touched them. Those outlines are not the shapes of Raikou, Entei, or Suicune. They are smaller, more ordinary, more like the common creatures that fill the routes and forests of Johto. Some fans have speculated that the original 3 were simply variations of Eevee, a Pokémon known for its unstable genetic structure and its ability to adapt to environmental pressures. Others suggest they were Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon, the 3 elemental evolutions that Eevee can achieve, but the games have never confirmed this. The Pokédex entries for the legendary beasts mention the fire and the resurrection, but they never name the victims. This ambiguity is deliberate. The Pokémon Company has had decades to clarify the identity of the original 3, and they have chosen not to. That silence is itself a kind of storytelling. It tells us that the legend is more important than the facts. The beasts are not defined by what they were. They are defined by what they became. They are symbols of rebirth, of transformation, of the idea that even death can be a beginning if a power greater than nature intervenes. And yet, there is something unsettling about this story. Ho-Oh is often portrayed as a benevolent guardian, a bringer of happiness and hope, but the resurrection of the 3 Pokémon raises questions about the nature of its power. Did Ho-Oh ask for permission? Did the original 3 have any choice in their transformation? Or were they simply vessels, their identities erased and replaced with elemental forces that served a purpose greater than themselves? The beasts are not the same creatures that died in the fire. They are something else entirely. Something that exists between life and legend. The connection between the beasts and natural disasters is also worth examining. Raikou embodies lightning, which is destructive but also necessary for the cycle of life. Lightning starts fires, but it also fixes nitrogen in the soil, making the earth fertile. Entei embodies volcanic fire, which can level cities but also creates new land. Suicune embodies rain, which can flood and destroy, but also brings water to the parched ground. The beasts are not just forces of chaos, they are forces of balance. They represent the idea that destruction and creation are 2 sides of the same coin, and that the most powerful forces in nature are the ones that can do both. The burned tower itself is a monument to this duality. It is a ruin, a reminder of loss and tragedy, but it is also a sacred site, a place where legend was born. Players who visit the tower in the games and stand in the center of the ground floor and see the faint outlines of the 3 original Pokémon. The game never explains what those outlines mean. It never tells you that you are standing on the exact spot where 3 lives ended and 3 legends began. But the atmosphere of the tower communicates everything. The music is somber, the lighting is dim, and the only sounds are the echoes of your own footsteps. It is a place of quiet reverence, a temple to the unknown, and that is where the mystery remains. The beasts roam Johto and beyond, appearing in different regions across different generations. They are powerful, iconic, and beloved, but they carry with them the ghost of a question that may never be answered. Who were they before the fire? What did they look like? Did they have names? Did they have personalities? Were they loved by anyone? The legend of Ho-Oh's resurrection is beautiful, but it is also tragic. It is a story about erasure as much as it is about rebirth. The original 3 were forgotten. Their identities were burned away along with the tower, and in their place, we have Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, creatures of myth who will never know what it was like to be ordinary. The burned tower's secret is not just about the past. It is about the nature of memory in the Pokémon world. The games are filled with ruins, with inscriptions, with fragments of history that the player must piece together. But some pieces are missing forever. The original 3 Pokémon are missing pieces. They are the silence in the story, the gap that no amount of research can fill. And that gap is what makes the legend feel real. Real history is full of gaps. Real myths are full of unanswered questions. The Pokémon world, for all its bright colours and cheerful music, has a depth that comes from its willingness to leave things unresolved. As we leave the burned tower and step back into the rain-soaked streets of Ecruteak, we carry that question with us. It lingers in the back of the mind, a quiet hum that never quite fades. And it is not the only question that Johto has left unanswered. There is another mystery, one that involves a golden ball. a Pokeball that could not be opened, and a story that was started but never finished. That mystery has a name, and it is one of the strangest artifacts in the entire franchise. It is called the GS Ball, and its legacy is one of abandonment. But that is a story for the next chapter. The story of the 3 nameless Pokemon who perished in the Brass Tower, resurrected by Ho-Oh into the legendary beasts, leaves us with a lingering question about the nature of transformation and what is lost in the process. But there is another mystery from the Johto era, one that does not involve fire or resurrection, but a simple object that became a ghost in the franchise's history. It is the story of the GS Ball, a golden and silver sphere that even Professor Oak could not open, a relic that the anime writers built up as the most hyped mystery of the Johto arc, only to abandon it without a single word of explanation. The GS Ball first appeared in the anime during the Johto journey, when Ash and his friends were tasked with delivering it to Kurt, the Apricorn Pokeball expert who lived in Azalea Town. The ball was unlike any Pokeball they had ever seen. It was not a standard capture device, nor did it respond to any of the usual mechanisms. It was sealed, impenetrable, and seemed to hum with an ancient energy that defied explanation. Professor Oak, the foremost authority on Pokemon in the Kanto region, examined it thoroughly. He tried every method he knew, from simple force to technological scans, but the ball would not yield its secret. It was as if the object existed outside the normal rules of the Pokemon world, a locked box from a forgotten age. The mystery deepened when Kurt, who had spent his life working with Apricorn Pokeballs, also failed to open it. He recognized the craftsmanship, the materials, but the ball's design was beyond anything in his knowledge. It was not just a physical object. It was a puzzle that seemed to reject all attempts at solution. The anime treated the GS Ball as a major plot point, a thread that would surely lead to a legendary encounter or a revelation about the history of Johto. Viewers waited for the payoff, for the moment when the ball would finally open and reveal its contents. Perhaps a mythical Pokemon or a key to an ancient event, but that moment never came. The writers suddenly dropped the GS Ball storyline without any resolution. In the anime, it was simply handed off to Kurt, and then it vanished from the narrative. There was no explanation, no closure, no hint of what might have been inside. It became a permanent ghost in the franchise's history, a physical object that existed only as a reminder of a promise unfulfilled. The reason for this abandonment is often attributed to a shift in the anime's direction, or perhaps a conflict with the game's intended storyline. But the truth is that the GS Ball was a casualty of a larger mystery, one that involved the mythical Pokemon Celebi and a lost event in the original games. In the Pokemon Gold and Silver games, there was a planned event tied to the GS Ball. It was meant to be an item that could be used in the Ilex Forest, a sacred grove where Celebi was said to dwell. The event would have allowed players to encounter Celebi, the time-traveling Pokemon that guarded the forest's shrine. But this event was never officially released. The GS Ball was coded into the game, but it remained inaccessible, a piece of cut content that players could only speculate about. The anime storyline was likely intended to mirror this game event, to build anticipation for a Celebi encounter that would tie the two mediums together. But when the game event was scrapped, the anime was left with a dangling plot thread that had no resolution. The GS Ball became a symbol of the franchise's willingness to create mysteries that it never intends to solve. It is a relic of a time when the anime and games were more closely intertwined, when a single object could carry the weight of a legendary encounter. But the ball's true legacy is not in what it contained, but in what it represented. The idea that some secrets are meant to remain hidden. It is a physical object that became a ghost, a permanent fixture in the lore that serves as a reminder of the stories that could have been. As we close this chapter on the GS Ball, we are left with the hollow echo of a mystery that was never meant to be solved. But the franchise has other enigmas that are even more abstract, objects that are not physical at all, but are instead woven into the very fabric of language and reality. The Unown, the symbol Pokémon, are not a single object or a sealed ball. They are a living alphabet, a collection of beings that seem to exist as a bridge between thought and matter. Their presence in the ruins of Johto and beyond suggests a deeper connection to the nature of communication itself, a mystery that may be the most uncanny of all. And that is where our journey will take us next, into the world of Unown and the living alphabet, where the lines between symbol and substance blur into something truly strange. We closed the last chapter holding the GS ball, that impossible golden sphere that refused to open, refused to yield its secret, and was ultimately abandoned by the very story that introduced it. It was a mystery that promised revelation and delivered only silence. And yet, as we set that relic aside, we find ourselves standing in the shadow of another Johto-era enigma, one that is far older, far stranger, and far more unsettling. We are talking, of course, about the ruins of Alph and the creatures that dwell within them. The Unown. The ruins of Alph are not like other locations in the Pokémon world. They are not a gym town, not a route, not a cave full of Zubat. They are a scar in the landscape, a cluster of ancient stone chambers buried in the grass of Johto, accessible only by descending into the earth. And from the moment you step inside, something feels wrong. The walls are covered in strange symbols, characters that look like letters from no alphabet you have ever seen. Yet they feel familiar, almost as if they belong to a language your subconscious recognizes, but your conscious mind cannot read. The music that plays in these ruins is not the adventurous theme of a dungeon or the eerie hum of a haunted tower. It is a low, droning, almost mechanical sound, a frequency that feels less like a melody and more like a transmission. And that is the first clue that something truly unusual is happening here. In the original Pokémon Gold and Silver, and again in their remakes, there is a specific interaction that players can perform in the ruins of Alph that has haunted the community for decades. If you use the Pokégear radio function while standing in certain rooms of the ruins, you can tune into a strange, cryptic signal. It is not music. It is not a weather report. It is a series of beeps and tones, a pattern that feels deliberate, as if someone or something is trying to communicate. The game never explains what this signal is. It never tells you who sent it, or why it is being broadcast from these ancient stones. It is simply there, a ghost in the machine, a whisper from a forgotten age. This radio signal is the first hint that the Unown are not merely rare Pokémon that you can catch for your Pokédex. They are a phenomenon. They are a living alphabet, a set of 28 distinct forms, each corresponding to a letter of the English alphabet, plus 2 additional forms for punctuation. They float in the air, their single eye staring blankly ahead, their bodies composed of simple, almost abstract shapes. They do not behave like other Pokémon. They do not evolve. They do not have distinct cries that sound like animals. They emit a soft, almost imperceptible hum, and when you encounter them in the wild, they appear in swarms, dozens of them floating silently in the darkness of the ruins, as if they are waiting for something. The question that has haunted lore enthusiasts for over 2 decades is this: are the Unown Pokémon, or are they something else entirely? The Pokédex classifies them as Pokémon, of course, but the entries themselves are strangely evasive. The Gold Pokédex entry states that they are shaped like ancient hieroglyphics, and that they are said to have appeared when people started writing. The Silver entry goes further, claiming that they look like writing on a wall, and that they may be the source of all language. This is a staggering claim. It suggests that the Unown are not just symbols that represent language. They are the origin of language itself. They are the physical manifestation of the human need to communicate, to record, to think. And this is where the mystery deepens into something truly cosmic. The Unown are not just passive symbols. They are connected to the very fabric of reality through the power of human thought. This connection was explored most vividly in the 3rd Pokémon movie, Spell of the Unown. Entei, which remains one of the most bizarre and psychologically unsettling entries in the entire franchise. In that film, a young girl named Molly Hale, lonely and desperate after her father's disappearance, unknowingly summons the Unown from the depths of her own imagination. The Unown, acting as a collective, a hive mind, respond to her emotional need. They do not simply grant her wish, they rewrite the local reality to match her desires. They create a castle of crystal in the middle of the city. They pull a version of her father from another dimension. They manifest a physical Entei, a legendary beast from her memories of a bedtime story. The Unown in that movie are terrifying, not because they are violent, but because they are absolute. They are a force of pure creation, a blank slate upon which the human mind can inscribe anything. They do not have a will of their own, at least not one we can understand. They are a mirror, reflecting whatever thought is projected onto them. And if that thought is powerful enough, if the emotion behind it is strong enough, the Unown will make it real. They will bend the laws of physics. They will tear holes in space. They will create life from nothing. They are the living embodiment of the idea that reality is not fixed, that it is a story we are all telling ourselves, and that some stories can be rewritten. This is what makes the ruins of Alph so unsettling. The radio signal is not just a random Easter egg. It is a beacon. It is a call. It is the Unown broadcasting their presence, waiting for someone to tune in, waiting for a mind strong enough to give them a command. The ruins themselves are not a tomb or a prison. They are a terminal, an interface between our world and a dimension of pure information. The Unown exist in a state of quantum potential, neither fully material nor fully abstract, until a conscious observer gives them form. So, what does this mean for the broader mythology of the Pokémon world? It suggests that the universe is not as solid as it appears. It suggests that thought, language, and reality are intertwined in a way that we are only beginning to understand. The Unown may be the key to everything, the fundamental building blocks of existence, the letters that spell out the laws of nature. And if that is true, then the question is not whether the Unown are Pokémon. The question is whether everything else is just a sentence they have written. But the ruins of Alph are not the only ancient structures that hold such secrets. There are other ruins in other regions, carved with symbols that no one has fully deciphered. And in those ruins, there are other beings sealed away, waiting. The story of the Unown is only the beginning of a much larger mystery. One that involves a civilization that understood the power of language far better than we do. That is the story we will explore next, as we descend into the world of the Braille Civilization. The Unown, as we explored, are unsettling because they suggest that language itself might be a living, breathing force in the Pokémon world. But what happens when that language is not just alive, but deliberately used to seal something away? What happens when the alphabet becomes a lock, and the key is a dead, forgotten script that no modern human should be able to read? That is the mystery of the Braille Civilization, and it begins with the daunting task of decoding the sealed chambers in the Hoenn region. When players first discovered the locations of Regirock, Regis, and Registeel in Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, they were not met with a simple puzzle. They were met with a wall of dots. The game required you to translate real-world Braille, a tactile writing system used by the visually impaired, into a sequence of directions. You had to walk a specific path, use a specific move like Flash, or stand in a specific spot, all dictated by a language that the game never taught you. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated mystery. The developers trusted you to go outside the game, to look up a Braille chart, or to have a friend who knew it. It was a puzzle that broke the fourth wall, implying that the knowledge you needed was not in the digital world, but in the real one. And that is profoundly strange. Why would an ancient culture, one that predates the modern Pokémon League by centuries, choose to encode their secrets in a system that would be indecipherable to most people? The answer, when you piece it together from the ruins themselves, is deeply unsettling. This was not a test of intelligence. It was a The Braille inscriptions in the Hoenn chambers do not say, "Open this door to find treasure." They say, "We feared it, we kept it away. Everything here is for the future." That is the disturbing message carved into the stone. It is a confession. The civilization that built these prisons did not worship the Regis as gods. They treated them like containment units. They were afraid of what they had created or discovered, and they buried the golems deep underground, hoping that time would erase the memory of their existence. So, why an ancient culture chose to lock the Regis away in eternal prisons is the central question. The Regis are not inherently evil. Regirock is made of ordinary stones, Regis a block of ancient ice, and Registeel is a mass of prehistoric metal. They are, in essence, golems. They are animated statues, but the lore suggests that they are not just golems. They are tools, and like any tool, they can be used for construction or destruction. The Braille texts hint that the civilization used the Regis to shape the land itself. They moved mountains, redirected rivers, and carved the very geography of Hoenn. But then, something went wrong. The power of the golems became too much. They were uncontrollable. The civilization realized that these beings were not just servants. They were weapons of mass geological change. So they sealed them away, not as a punishment, but as a desperate act of survival. They built the chambers to be impenetrable, using the one language they knew would outlast them. Speculation on the cataclysm that forced humanity to bury the golems is where the story gets truly dark. The Braille inscriptions do not describe a war or a natural disaster. They describe a fear, a primal existential dread of what the Regis could do if left unchecked. Some theorists believe that the cataclysm was not an external event, but an internal one. The Regis themselves may have been the cataclysm. Perhaps they began to move without command, reshaping the world in ways that threatened the very civilization that built them. Imagine a city being slowly crushed by a mountain that walks. Imagine a river being turned to glass by a being of absolute zero. The ancient people did not destroy the Regis because they could not. They were too powerful, so they did the only thing they could. They hid them, they buried them deep, and they covered the entrance with a language that no one would speak again. The legacy of this civilization is one of profound paranoia. They did not leave behind monuments to their glory. They left behind warnings. And the most chilling part is that they were right to be afraid. Because in the modern era, players have found those chambers. They have decoded the Braille. They have awakened the Regis. And in doing so, they have proven that the ancient fear was justified. The golems are loose again. And their master, the one who can command them all, is still sleeping somewhere in the frozen north. That master is a being of such immense power that it is said to have pulled the continents apart with its bare hands. That story, the story of the Titan who moved the earth, is the next chapter in this long, dark history. We ended the last chapter standing in the dust of a Hoenn ruin, our fingers tracing the grooves of a Braille inscription that had been carved into stone centuries before any modern trainer was born. We had asked the question, why were the Regis locked away? Why would an ancient civilization go to such lengths to seal these golems in chambers that required a language of the blind to even access? The answer, it turns out, is not in Hoenn at all. It is in a frozen region far to the north, where the snow never melts, and the ground itself seems to groan under the weight of something sleeping. There is a legend told by the oldest peoples of Sinnoh, a story that predates even the founding of the great cities. It speaks of a Titan, a being of such immense physical strength that it could grasp the very land masses of the world and pull them into place. This was not a metaphor for geological change. This was a literal act. The myth says that this Titan, this master of the temple, took ropes of an unknown material, perhaps woven from the fibers of the earth itself, and dragged the continents across the primordial sea, shaping the world as we know it. And when its work was done, it did not rest. It created servants, 3 smaller beings, carved from the raw materials of the planet, a body of rock that could never erode, a body of ice that could never melt, and a body of steel that could never rust. These were the first Regis. They were built to serve the Master, to maintain the order of the world that had been forged. But here is where the story takes a turn that feels almost tragic. The Master of the Temple, the being we now know as Regigigas, was too powerful for the world it had made. Its strength was not a gift, it was a burden. The very act of existing in the modern world, in a time after creation, seemed to drain it. When you encounter Regigigas in the games, it is always in a state of what the Pokédex calls slow start. For the first 5 turns of any battle, its power is halved. It moves sluggishly. It struggles to even muster an attack. This is not a weakness. This is a limiter. The implication is chilling. Regigigas is so powerful that the world itself cannot handle its full output. Its body has to be throttled, held back, lest it accidentally tear the continents apart again just by stretching its limbs. This explains why the Regis were sealed. They were not imprisoned for punishment. They were locked away to protect them, and to protect the world from them. The Master of the Temple, the continent Puller, went into a deep slumber in a temple in Sinnoh, its power held in check by the very environment that surrounds it. The smaller Regis were hidden in Hoenn, in chambers that required a specific key, a language of Braille to open. But why Braille? Why a language of the blind? The answer may lie in the architecture itself. Look at the ruins of Hoenn and the ruins of Sinnoh. They are not identical, but they share a common hand. The stonework, the layout of the chambers, the way the light falls through the gaps in the ceiling. It all suggests a single civilization, a people who understood the power of these beings and chose to hide them. Braille was not chosen because it was secret. It was chosen because it was permanent. A written language can fade, be scratched out, or be forgotten. But a language carved into stone, a language that can be read by touch, will survive as long as the stone itself survives. This civilization built for eternity, and so the Titan sleeps. Its servants wait in their stone prisons. The ropes that pulled the continents have long since rotted away, but the memory of that act remains, etched into the very geography of the world. Every time you cross a sea, every time you travel from one region to another, you are walking across the scars left by Regigigas. The land masses are not natural, they were arranged. And the architect of that arrangement is still out there, slumbering, waiting, held back by a slow start that may one day end. But if Regigigas is the physical force that shaped the world, what force shaped the universe itself? What hatched from an egg in a void where nothing else existed? That is a story for another time. That is the story of the egg in the void. The previous chapter ended with the image of Regigigas, the colossal titan said to have dragged the continents into place with ropes. It is a myth that suggests the very geography of the Pokémon world was shaped by the hands, or the rope-tugging appendages of a single entity. But if that legend feels immense, it is only a prelude to a story that dwarfs any continental drift. Because Regigigas did not create the land from nothing, it rearranged what was already there. The true origin story begins not with ropes or tectonic plates, but with an egg floating in an endless, silent void. In the oldest texts preserved in the Canalav library in Sinnoh, there is a passage that speaks of a single point of light emerging from absolute emptiness. That light hatched into a being known as the Original One. The myth is deceptively simple. From the egg came a creature that then shaped the universe around it, gave birth to time and space, and set the foundations for everything that exists. But the moment you stop treating this as a simple creation story and start asking what it actually means, the mystery deepens into something far stranger. Arceus is the name given to that Original One, and right away we run into a philosophical paradox that no other legendary Pokémon has to face. How can a Pokémon create the universe if the universe itself is what defines the concept of a Pokémon? Arceus is said to have hatched from an egg in a void. But a void is not nothing. A void is a space, or at least a potential for space. And an egg implies a pre-existing biology, a genetic structure, a method of reproduction that requires a parent. If Arceus was truly the first thing to exist, then its egg must have come from somewhere else. Or the egg itself is a symbol, a way of describing something that cannot be described in literal terms. The myth does not resolve this. It simply presents the image and leaves the listeners to wrestle with it. The Sinnoh library texts are careful not to claim that Arceus created the universe out of absolute nothingness. Instead, they say it shaped the world, it brought order, it used its 1,000 arms to mold the cosmos. That phrase, 1,000 arms, is one of the most puzzling details in all of Pokemon lore. In every official depiction of Arceus, from the games to the anime to promotional art, it appears as a quadrupedal creature with a golden ring around its midsection and no visible arms at all, let alone 1,000 of them. So what are the 1,000 arms of the original creation myth? Some theories suggest that the arms are metaphorical, representing the countless plates that Arceus uses to change its type. Those plates are literal items in the games, ancient stone slabs inscribed with symbols, and each one seems to grant a fragment of elemental power. Perhaps 1,000 arms is a poetic way of saying that Arceus can reach into every dimension of existence, every type, every element, all at once. But there is another interpretation that feels more unsettling, that the being as Arceus is not the full form, that the 1,000 arms are hidden, folded into the ring, compressed into a smaller, more manageable shape, so that mortal eyes can even look upon it. If that is true, then the Arceus we encounter in the Hall of Origin is a mere avatar, a simplified projection of a cosmic entity that is too vast to exist in normal space. This brings us to the central question that the games never answer directly. Is Arceus a god? Or is it simply the first biological entity to emerge from chaos? The term god implies a being that exists outside the rules of nature, that created those rules deliberately. But Arceus is still a creature that can be caught in a Pokeball, traded between trainers, and put to sleep with a simple move. That alone suggests it operates within the same physical laws as any other Pokemon, no matter how powerful. On the other hand, the act of catching Arceus in the games is itself a myth. It requires special event items, and the Hall of Origin is a place outside the normal flow of the story. The games treat Arceus as something fundamentally different, something that the player can approach only through ritual and exception. If Arceus is biological, then it is the ancestor of all life, not the creator of all life. Its ability to change type with plates mirrors the adaptability of early life forms, the way a single genetic blueprint can produce infinite variations. But if Arceus is divine, then its decision to create Dialga and Palkia, embodiments of time and space, suggests that before they existed, Arceus itself existed outside of time and space. That is a concept that breaks our understanding of causality. It is the kind of paradox that theologians have debated for millennia, and Pokemon simply places it inside a mythological framework and lets it sit there, unresolved. The mystery of the 1,000 arms, the egg in the void, the question of whether Arceus is a god or a creature. All these elements combine into one of the most beautifully incomplete stories in the franchise. And it becomes even stranger when you consider that Arceus did not stop creating. It went on to produce a trio of dragons that govern the very fabric of reality. Among them was a being that would eventually be banished to a realm where the normal laws of physics do not apply. That realm, that distorted reflection of our own world, holds its own secrets about the nature of creation and the price of imbalance. And it is there that we will turn next, into the twisted geometry of the Distortion world, to see what happens when the universe's rejected part still holds the key to understanding the whole. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. We ended the last chapter standing in the void, watching Arceus emerge from its egg and shape the universe. But a creator cannot exist without a counterpart, a shadow to the light. And in the Sinnoh myth cycle, that shadow has a name, Giratina. When Arceus brought forth Dialga and Palkia to govern time and space, something else was born alongside them. Not a third sibling in the traditional sense, but a necessary opposite, the Distortion world. A realm where time does not flow and space is unstable. A place where the rules that hold our reality together simply do not apply. And Giratina was cast into it. The official story, the one told in the ancient texts of the Celestic Town Library, is that Giratina was banished for its violence. It was too destructive, too wild, too unwilling to submit to the order that Arceus had established. So the creator deity sealed it away in a dimension that exists alongside our own, a parallel universe that is always there but never quite reachable. But that explanation, the one about violence, feels incomplete. It feels like a story told to children, a simplification of something far stranger. Consider what the Distortion world actually is. In Pokémon Platinum, when you finally step through the portal at the top of Mount Coronet, you enter a place that defies everything you know. Gravity is inconsistent. You walk on walls and ceilings. The sky is a sickly green, and the ground is made of floating platforms that twist and turn in impossible angles. There is no sun, no moon, no stars. There is no day or night. There is only an endless, static twilight, and time as you experience it simply does not pass. Your Pokémon do not get hungry. Your internal clock does not tick. You are in a place that exists outside the flow of cause and effect. This is not a prison in the traditional sense. It is more like an inverse of reality. If our universe is a painting, the Distortion world is the canvas behind it, the raw material that holds the image in place but is never seen. Giratina is not just a banished Pokémon, it is the embodiment of antimatter, the opposite principle to everything that exists. In physics, for every particle of matter, there is a corresponding particle of antimatter. When they meet, they annihilate each other in a flash of pure energy. Giratina, then, is the antimatter to Dialga and Palkia's matter. It is the necessary opposite that keeps the universe in balance. Without it, the creation would be incomplete. But because its nature is so fundamentally destructive, the fabric of reality, it must be kept separate. The violence that led to its banishment might not have been a choice. It might have been an inevitability. Imagine a being whose very presence destabilizes the world around it. Every step it takes causes space to warp. Every breath it draws sends ripples through time. It is not evil. It is simply incompatible. And so Arceus, in its wisdom, created a place where Giratina could exist without destroying everything else. A shadow universe where it could be itself. But here is where the mystery deepens. The veil between our world and the Distortion world is thinner than you might think. In the Sinnoh region, there is a place called Turnback Cave. It is a small, unassuming cave on Route 214. Easy to miss if you are not looking for it. But inside, something strange happens. The cave is a labyrinth, a maze of rooms that shift and change as you walk through them. The only way to reach the deepest chamber is to follow a specific pattern, a sequence of pillars that glow with an eerie light. And at the heart of that chamber, you find a portal, a direct connection to the Distortion world. The name itself is telling, Turnback Cave. It suggests that this is a place where you are meant to turn back, where you are not welcome. The cave is a boundary, a thin spot where the two realities press against each other, and if you know the way, you can cross over. But why does this cave exist? Who built it, or was it always there, a natural seam in the fabric of the universe? The games never answer that question. They leave it as a lingering mystery, a reminder that the Distortion world is not as far away as we might like to think. Giratina itself is often called the renegade Pokémon. That word renegade implies a choice, a decision to rebel. But was it truly a renegade, or was it simply misunderstood? In Platinum, when you finally confront Giratina, it does not attack you out of malice. It is defending its home. You are the intruder, the invader from a reality that cast it out. And when you catch it, when you bring it into your world, you can feel the weight of its exile. It is a being that has been alone for millennia, existing in a place where nothing changes, where there is no warmth, no light, no life, just an endless silent void. The Distortion world represents something profound. It is the necessary shadow to the physical universe. Every creation needs a space for what does not fit. Every order needs a place for chaos. And in the Pokémon world, that place is the Distortion world. It is the attic where the universe stores its broken toys. It is the basement where the forgotten things go. And Giratina is its keeper, whether it wants to be or not. But there is another layer to this mystery. In the lore of the Unova region, there is a story about an original dragon, a being so powerful that it was split into three, and the question that haunts that story is the same one that haunts Giratina. What happens when a perfect whole is broken? What is left behind when the pieces are scattered? That is the story we'll explore next in Chapter 12, the original dragon of Unova, from the chaos of the Distortion world, where space bends and time has no meaning. We now turn to a different kind of fracture, one that is not spatial or temporal, but philosophical. In the Unova region, there is a legend so old and so deeply embedded in the culture that it shapes the very identity of the land. It is the story of a single dragon, a creature of immense power, and the two brothers who tore it apart. The legend of the two brothers and the single dragon that served them both is the foundation upon which all of Unova's history is built. According to the ancient texts, long before the region became a bustling metropolis of bridges and skyscrapers, there was a kingdom ruled by twin brothers. They were united in their desire to build a prosperous land, and to aid them, they had a dragon of unparalleled might. This dragon was not merely a beast of war or a symbol of power. It was a living embodiment of their shared vision. But as the kingdom grew, so did the differences between the brothers. One brother came to believe that the path forward was paved with truth, absolute, unyielding, and pure. The other brother became convinced that the only way to achieve greatness was through ideals, aspirations, dreams, and the will to forge a new reality. Their agreement was not a petty squabble. It was a fundamental schism in their understanding of the world. The dragon, bound to both of them, could not serve two masters with such opposing views. And so, something extraordinary happened. The metaphysical split into Reshiram, representing truth, and Zekrom, representing ideals, was not a battle or a magical accident. It was a philosophical divorce made manifest. The single dragon, unable to reconcile the two forces within itself, divided into two separate beings. Reshiram took on the aspect of truth, its body wreathed in flames that burn away falsehood. Zekrom became the embodiment of ideals, its form crackling with lightning that strikes down stagnation. The brothers each took one of these dragons, and the kingdom fell into a war that lasted for generations. But what of the original dragon? What remained after such a division? The answer lies in a frozen wasteland, far to the north of Unova. There in a cave of eternal ice slumbers Kyurem. Kyurem is not a third aspect of the original dragon, nor is it a separate entity born from the same source. Kyurem is the empty husk, the frozen remains of the division itself. When the dragon split into Reshiram and Zekrom, it left behind a shell, a body without a heart, a vessel without a soul. Kyurem is the physical evidence of a wound that has never healed. Its body is cold, not just because of the ice that surrounds it, but because it lacks the fire of truth and the lightning of ideals. It is a creature of absence, a walking void where the original dragon's power once resided. This is where the mystery deepens. The games tell us that Kyurem can fuse with either Reshiram or Zekrom using a device called the DNA Splicers. When fused, it becomes white Kyurem or black Kyurem, forms that are more powerful than either dragon alone. But these fusions are incomplete. They are like gluing two broken pieces together and calling it a vase. The resulting creature is stronger, yes, but it is not whole. It is a patchwork, a desperate attempt to reclaim something that was lost. And this leads to the terrifying prospect of what the complete dragon would look like if reunited. Imagine for a moment a being that contains both truth and ideals in perfect harmony, not a compromise but a synthesis. A dragon that is both fire and lightning, both absolute certainty and boundless aspiration. Such a creature would not be a mere Pokémon. It would be a concept given form. It would be the embodiment of perfect knowledge and perfect will, a force that could reshape reality itself. The legends hint that this original dragon was so powerful that it could create and destroy worlds with a thought. And yet we have only fragments. We have Reshiram, Zekrom, and the empty shell of Kyurem. The complete dragon remains a ghost, a possibility that haunts the lore of Unova. The DNA splicers themselves are a mystery. Who created them? Were they forged by the ancient kingdom to try and undo the damage of the war? Or were they a later invention, a desperate attempt by modern scientists to harness the power of the original dragon? The games do not say. They simply give us the tool and let us experiment. But the implications are chilling. If Kyurem can fuse with one of the dragons, what would happen if it fused with both? What if the empty husk could somehow absorb the essence of truth and ideals simultaneously? Would the original dragon be reborn, or would it be something else entirely? Something that the ancient brothers never intended. This is the heart of the mystery. The legend of the two brothers and their single dragon is not just a story about a war. It is a meditation on the nature of division. In splitting the dragon, the brothers did not solve their conflict. They merely externalized it. The war between truth and ideals continues to this day, not just in Unova, but in every decision we make. And Kyurem waits, frozen and patient, a reminder that some things, once broken, can never be truly mended. As we prepare to explore the next chapter, we will delve deeper into the mechanics of this fusion. We will examine the DNA splicers and the abominable fusion they enable. And we will ask the question that haunts every scholar of Pokémon lore. What happens when you try to force together what was meant to remain apart? The legend of the original Dragon of Unova tells us that the great beast split itself apart when its twin masters could no longer agree. One brother championed truth, the other ideals, and the dragon that had served them both would not remain whole in the face of such division. Reshiram took the side of truth, Zekrom the side of ideals. And what was left behind was something far stranger than either half. That leftover is Kyurem, and it is perhaps the most unsettling legendary Pokémon in the entire franchise. Not because of what it is, but because of what it is missing. When you first encounter Kyurem in the games, it feels like a creature that should not exist. Its body is jagged and incomplete, with a head that seems too large for its frame, and a tail that ends in a frozen, broken stump. Its wings are little more than skeletal remnants, and its entire form is covered in a crystalline ice that appears to be leaking from its own wounds. This is not a Pokémon that looks like it evolved naturally. It looks like something that was once magnificent and is now barely holding itself together. The games present Kyurem as the empty husk of the original dragon, the shell that remained after Reshiram and Zekrom departed with the brothers' philosophies. But that description does not fully capture the horror of what Kyurem actually is. Think about it for a moment. If the original dragon was a complete being and its essence was split into 3 parts, then 2 of those parts became living, breathing, thinking creatures with their own wills and flames. Reshiram burns with the fire of truth, and Zekrom crackles with the lightning of ideals. They are active forces in the world. Kyurem, by contrast, is a void. It has no fire, no lightning, no philosophy. It is defined entirely by absence, and yet Kyurem is not passive. It is not content to simply be the leftover. It wants to be whole again, and this is where the story takes a turn into something truly dark. In Pokémon Black 2 and White 2, we are introduced to the DNA splicers. These are strange mechanical devices that resemble 2 intertwined spirals, and they allow Kyurem to fuse with either Reshiram or Zekrom. The result is Black Kyurem or White Kyurem, forms that are more powerful and more complete than Kyurem alone. But the process is not a natural reunion. It is not a gentle coming together of lost halves. It is an abominable fusion, a forced merger that causes visible pain and instability. Look at the designs of Black Kyurem and White Kyurem. They are not elegant. They are not harmonious. Black Kyurem has Zekrom's tail and legs fused awkwardly onto Kyurem's body, with ice crystals jutting out at odd angles and a face that seems to be screaming. White Kyurem is even more disturbing, with Reshiram's head and wings attached to Kyurem's torso in a way that looks almost surgical. The ice that covers Kyurem's body does not melt when it fuses with the fire of truth. Instead, it cracks and reforms, creating a patchwork of frozen agony. These are not natural forms, they are experiments, and the Pokémon inside them is suffering. The DNA splicers themselves are a clue to the dark science behind this process. They are not a legendary artifact handed down by the original dragon. They are a human invention, created by the villainous Team Plasma in their quest to control the power of the legendary dragons. In the games, you find the DNA splicers in a laboratory, surrounded by notes and experiments. This is not ancient magic. This is modern technology being used to violate the natural order. And here is the central mystery that the games never fully resolve. The DNA splicers allow Kyurem to fuse with Reshiram or Zekrom, but they do not restore the original dragon. The result is always Kyurem with the other half attached, never a true reunion of all three. Why? Because the third piece of the puzzle is missing. The original dragon was split into 3 parts, not 2. Reshiram and Zekrom are the active halves, but Kyurem is the passive husk. To truly restore the original dragon, you would need to fuse all 3 together, but that is impossible within the game mechanics because the third piece was never implemented. This missing piece is referred to by fans as the God Stone, an item that was found in the game's code but never used. In the data of Pokémon Black 2 and White 2, there is an item called the God Stone that would allow Kyurem to fuse with both Reshiram and Zekrom simultaneously, creating a form that is likely the true original dragon. But this item was never distributed, never made available through any event, and never explained in the game's lore. It exists only as a ghost in the machine, a reminder that the story of the original dragon is incomplete. Why was the Godst cut? The most likely answer is that Game Freak wanted to leave the mystery unresolved. The original dragon is meant to be a legend, a myth that the player can never fully verify. By giving players the ability to fuse Kyurem with both halves, they would have to show what the original dragon actually looks like, and that would remove the mystery entirely. It is better, from a storytelling perspective, to leave the original dragon as a concept, rather than a creature you can catch and battle. But there is another possibility, one that is far more unsettling. Perhaps the God Stone was never meant to be used, because the original dragon cannot be restored. Perhaps the split was so traumatic, so violent, that the 3 pieces can never truly be whole again. The DNA splicers are a crude imitation of reunion, a forced fusion that causes pain and instability. The true reunion would require something more, something that does not exist in the world of Pokémon. The God Stone is a placeholder for a miracle that will never happen. This idea is reinforced by the behavior of Kyurem itself. In the games, Kyurem is described as a Pokémon that absorbs the energy of its surroundings, turning everything around it into ice. It is a creature of entropy, of decay. It does not create, it only takes. When it fuses with Reshiram or Zekrom, it is not joining with them, it is consuming them. The ice spreads over their bodies, freezing their flames and lightning, turning their vibrant colours into a dull, cold grey. Black Kyurem and White Kyurem are not new life. They are corpses, reanimated by a desperate hunger for completeness. And yet there is a strange beauty to these forms. They are tragic, yes, but they are also powerful. They represent the lengths to which a broken being will go to feel whole again. Kyurem is not evil. It is not malicious. It is simply incomplete, and it will do anything to fill that void. The DNA splicers are a tool of dark science, but they are also a mirror. They reflect our own desire to fix what is broken, to restore what is lost. But some things cannot be fixed. Some losses are permanent. The original dragon of Unova is gone, and no amount of technology or magic can bring it back. All we have are these abominable fusions, these patchwork creatures that scream in the silence of the frozen tundra. As we drift deeper into the night, consider this. The ghost of the original dragon haunts Unova, but it is not the only ghost that lingers in the Pokemon world. There are other spirits, other mysteries that remain unresolved. In the heart of Lumiose City, in a building that seems ordinary at first glance, a young girl waits in the shadows. She has been waiting for years, and she has something to say. But that is a story for another night, a story that will chill you to the bone. The DNA splicers were a chilling piece of technology. They allowed Cubone to absorb Reshiram or Zekrom, creating a being that was neither the original dragon nor the separate halves. The games let you do this, but they never explain the ethics of it. You are forcing a fusion, a reunion that the original dragon itself may not have wanted, and the result is always incomplete. White Cubone and Black Cubone are powerful, but they are not the true original. The husk remains a husk, even when filled with borrowed fire or lightning. That incompleteness is the core of the tragedy. But there is another kind of incompleteness in Pokemon. One that is not about missing pieces of a dragon. It is about a missing person, a ghost. And it appears in the most mundane of places. An elevator in Lumiose City. Let us step into that elevator for a moment. You are playing Pokemon X or Y. You have explored the beautiful Paris-inspired city of Lumiose. You have ridden its taxis, battled in its gym, and shopped at its boutiques. But there is a building, a nondescript office building, near the Northern Boulevard. It has no special sign, no quest marker. You enter simply because you can. The lobby is quiet. You take the elevator to the second floor. The doors open onto a hallway lined with offices. Nothing unusual. But then you see her, a young girl, standing alone in the corridor. She is facing away from you. Her sprite is simple, a child with a dress and pigtails. You walk up to her and press the A button to talk. She turns, and she says, "No, you're not the one. That is it." She fades away. No battle, no item, no explanation. This is the Lumiose City Ghost Girl, and that single line, delivered in a game that otherwise never acknowledges the paranormal, launched 1,000 fan theories. Let us perform a frame-by-frame analysis of this encounter, because every detail matters. First, the location. The building is not a haunted mansion. It is not a cemetery. It is a generic office tower. That is what makes it so unsettling. The ghost does not appear in a place where you expect the supernatural. She appears in a place of mundane routine. Elevators, hallways, cubicles. This is a ghost of the everyday, a spirit that lingers in the spaces where people once worked and lived. Second, a dialogue. "No, you're not the one." The phrasing is crucial. She is looking for someone. She has been waiting, and she rejects you. You are not the one she is waiting for. This implies that she is trapped in a cycle, perhaps repeating this encounter endlessly, searching for a specific person who may never come. The game gives you no context for who that person might be. Is it a lost friend, a family member, or is she waiting for the player character from a previous generation? A soul that crossed her path in a different game. We will never know. Third, the disappearance. She does not walk away. She does not run. She simply fades like a glitch in the Matrix. The game engine treats her as a scripted event, but the effect is deeply unnerving. She is not a Pokemon. She is not a trainer. She is a piece of data that behaves like a person and then ceases to exist. Now, let us connect this to another ghost in the same game. In the Hotel Richisim, there is a similar encounter. A ghostly maid appears in a room on the 5th floor. She says, "This room, it's just as I left it," and then she vanishes. The maid is tied to a side quest involving a lost Pokédoll, but her presence is never fully explained. She is a remnant of a story that the game only hints at. And then there is the cryptic message behind the TM shop. In Lumiose City, there is a shop that sells technical machines. If you examine the back wall, you will find a hidden message written in a strange script. It reads, "Beware the girl in the elevator." This is a direct reference to the ghost. But who wrote it, and why? Is it a warning from a previous victim? Or is it a message from the ghost herself, trying to communicate with the living? The game never answers these questions, and that is the point. Game Freak included this paranormal event with zero mechanical payoff. You do not get a rare item. You do not unlock a new area. You do not even get a Pokédex entry. You get only a moment of unease, a crack in the cheerful facade of the Pokémon world. Why would they do this? The answer may lie in the nature of Kalos itself. The region of Kalos is obsessed with beauty, with life, and with death. The ultimate weapon, a device that could destroy all life or grant eternal youth, was built here 3,000 years ago. The Ghost Girl may be a remnant of that ancient tragedy. A soul caught between worlds because of the weapon's power. She is not a random glitch. She is a symptom of a deeper wound in the fabric of Kalos, and that wound is about to be explored. The ultimate weapon and the 3,000-year war that created it hold the key to understanding not just the Ghost Girl, but the entire history of the region. We will step into that story next. We left off in a dim elevator in Lumiose City, listening to a Ghost Girl whisper a line that has haunted the fandom for over a decade. But that ghost, as unsettling as she is not the only spirit tied to the Kalos region. In fact, the very ground beneath that city, beneath the entire region, is soaked in a tragedy far older, far more personal, and far more terrifying. Because Kalos is not just a land of fashion and battles, it is the site of a 3,000-year-old war, and the birthplace of a weapon that traded life for immortality. The story begins with a king, a man whose name has been passed down through the ages. Though his face is never seen in the modern games, we know him only as Acid, and he was not born a tyrant. He was not born a conqueror. He was a man, a ruler, who loved his Pokémon more than anything in the world. Specifically, he loved one Pokémon, a Floette, a small flower-like creature that was his constant companion. They were inseparable. They were happy. And then the war came. We do not know the precise cause of the war that ravaged Kalos 3,000 years ago. The games leave it vague, a scar on history rather than a detailed record. But we know it was devastating. We know it was brutal. And we know that in the midst of that chaos, Azid lost the one thing he could not bear to lose. His Floette died. Not in battle, perhaps, but in the chaos, in the suffering, in the collapse of a world that had gone mad. And Azy, the king, the man with the power to command armies and build monuments, could not accept it. So he did what no one had ever done before. He built a machine, a weapon, the ultimate weapon. It was a device of impossible scale, powered not by electricity or steam, but by the life force of Pokémon. He gathered countless Pokémon, thousands upon thousands, and he used their energy as fuel. He channeled their very souls into the core of his machine, and he fired it, not at an enemy, not at a city. He fired it at death itself. The beam of energy that erupted from that weapon did not destroy, it restored. It brought back the dead. It brought back his Floette. And for a single fleeting moment, AZ had everything he wanted. The war was over. His friend was alive. But the cost was immeasurable. The lives of countless Pokémon had been consumed to power that single act of resurrection. The machine had worked, but it had left a stain on the world that would never wash away. And the Floette, the very creature he had sacrificed so much to save, looked at what he had done and was horrified. She could not stay. She could not live beside a king who had committed such an atrocity, even for love. So she left. She flew away, carrying a single flower, and she did not return. Azid was left alone. His kingdom was saved, but his heart was hollow. And here is where the story takes its strangest turn. Azid did not die. He did not age. The same energy that had resurrected his Floette had touched him too. The ultimate weapon had made him immortal. He became a wanderer, a ghost in his own kingdom, walking the earth for 3,000 years, waiting. He waited for the day his Floette might return. He waited for the day he could apologize. He waited, and the world changed around him. Empires rose and fell. The war became a legend. The weapon became a myth. And Azid became a forgotten king, a tall, gaunt figure who haunted the back alleys of Lumiose City, selling trinkets and staring at the sky. But the weapon did not just grant immortality, it left a scar on the very fabric of evolution. You see, the ultimate weapon was not a clean device. The energy it released, the raw life force of Pokémon, did not simply vanish. It lingered. It seeped into the land, into the stones, into the very bonds between humans and Pokémon. And centuries later, when scientists in the Kalos region began experimenting with a new phenomenon, they discovered something terrifying. The energy from that ancient weapon had created a mutation, a form of evolution that was not natural, not gradual, but explosive and violent. They called it Mega Evolution. Mega Evolution is presented in the games as a beautiful thing, a bond between trainer and Pokémon that unlocks hidden power, but its origin is dark, is a byproduct of mass death. The glowing stones that trigger Mega Evolution, the Keystones and Mega Stones, are fragments of that ancient catastrophe. They are pieces of the ultimate weapon, scattered across the region, still humming with the life force of the Pokémon that died to power it. Every time a trainer Mega evolves their Pokémon, they are tapping into a 3,000-year-old wound. They are using the echo of a genocide, and this is where the moral ambiguity becomes impossible to ignore. The Pokémon world is built on the partnership between humans and Pokémon. We catch them, we battle them, we befriend them. But here, in the heart of Kalos, we are confronted with the truth that human technology has been powered by Pokémon life force for millennia. The ultimate weapon was not an isolated incident. It was the first, but it was not the last. The very devices we use, the Pokeballs, the healing machines, the PCs, all of them rely on a system that treats Pokémon as resources. The line between partner and fuel is thinner than we want to admit. Azid understood this. He lived with the guilt of it. He spent 3,000 years wandering, hoping for forgiveness. And in the modern day, when a young trainer from Vanilleville Town finally confronted him, when they helped him find his Floette again, the reunion was not triumphant. It was quiet. It was sad. The Floette returned, but the weight of what had been done could not be erased. Azid finally closed his eyes and moved on, his long vigil over. But the questions remain. The weapon is still there, buried beneath the earth, its power dormant but not destroyed. And every time a Pokémon Mega evolves, the cycle continues. So the next time you see a trainer in the Battle Chateau or on the streets of Lumiose, remember the ghost in the elevator. Remember the king who waited, and remember that the power you hold in your hands, the power to evolve your Pokémon beyond their natural limits, was born from a war that should never have been fought. The mysteries of Kalos are not just puzzles to be solved, they are warnings. And speaking of mysteries that blur the line between game mechanics and folklore, there is an island off the coast of Hoenn that appears only when the game decides it should. It is a place that exists in code, but not always in reality. It is a legend that only a handful of players have ever seen with their own eyes. That is the story of Mirage Island, and it is the subject of our next chapter. The story of the ultimate weapon and the 3,000-year war ends with a king who waited and a Floette who never returned. But that kind of waiting, the kind that spans millennia, is a very specific form of loneliness. It is the loneliness of something that exists, but is never seen. And that is the exact feeling that clings to our next mystery. A mystery that is less about ancient kings and more about the very fabric of the game world itself. It is a mystery of a place that, for most players, might as well not exist at all. It is the mystery of Mirage Island. To understand Mirage Island, you have to understand a number. Not a big number like the years AZ waited, but a very specific, very cruel number, 1 in 65,536. That is the chance, every single day, in the world of Pokémon Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald, that Mirage Island will appear off the coast of Hoenn. Every new day, the game rolls a digital die with 65,536 sides. And only if it lands on exactly the right face does a tiny patch of land, a single pixelated speck on the ocean, suddenly become real. Now what determines that role? It is not your playtime. It is not your badge count. It is not some hidden quest you have completed. It is something far stranger. It is the personality value of a single Pokemon in your party. Every Pokemon you catch has a hidden number, a personality value that determines its gender, its nature, its shininess. And in Generation 3, that number also held the key to a secret island. The game looks at the oldest Pokemon in your party, the one that has been with you the longest, and checks its personality value. If that number, when run through a specific formula, matches a very specific target, the island appears. But here is the thing. The target is not fixed. It changes every day based on a random number the game generates. So you cannot simply breed a Pokemon with the right value. You cannot hunt for it. You have to be lucky. You have to have the right Pokemon on the right day, and then you have to actually sail past the right spot on Route 130. And if you do, if the stars align and the digital dice fall perfectly, you will see it. A small sandy beach surrounded by palm trees, sitting in the middle of the ocean, where yesterday there was nothing but waves. It is a place that exists only for a single day. If you do not visit it before midnight, it vanishes, and the roll begins again. This is not a glitch. This is not a bug. This is a deliberate design choice, a piece of game logic that feels like folklore. It is a secret so rare that many players, even those who spent hundreds of hours in Hoenn, never saw it with their own eyes. They only heard rumors. They heard about the island where wild Winnock could be found, and where a special berry, the lychee berry, grew on a single tree. But the island itself, the experience of stepping onto that impossible beach, became a legend. And that is why Mirage Island feels like a glitch made manifest in the lore. It is not a glitch. It is a feature. But it is a feature that behaves exactly like a glitch. It is a piece of the world that only exists when the game's internal logic says it should. It is a place that is not real until a specific, invisible condition is met. And that is the same feeling you get from the Distortion world, or from the Ghost Girl in Lumiose City. It is the feeling that the game is not just a world you explore, but a world that has its own hidden rules. Rules that you are not meant to fully understand. The surreal nature of an island that exists only for a single day is that it forces you to confront the artificiality of the world. In a normal game, a secret area is always there, waiting for you to find the right key or the right item. But Mirage Island is not waiting. It is a visitor. It appears, it stays for a day, and then it leaves. It is a reminder that the Pokemon world is not a static place. It is a simulation, a machine that is constantly running, constantly checking its own numbers. And sometimes, those numbers align to create something beautiful, something rare, something that feels like a miracle. But what if the numbers never align? What if you play for years and never see it? That is the fate of most players, and that is the true mystery. The island is real. It is coded into the game. You can watch videos of it. You can read about it. But for you in your own game, it may never exist. It is a Schrodinger's island. It is both real and not real, depending on the perspective of the observer. And that is a deeply unsettling thought. It means that the world of Pokemon is not the same for everyone. It means that there are secrets that are not just hidden, but that are actively denied to you by the game's own logic. This idea that the game world is not a single, shared reality, but a series of individual, personalized simulations, is a thread that runs through many of Pokemon's weirdest mysteries. And it is a thread that will be pulled again, in a different way, in a different region. Because soon, we will encounter an item that seems to come from nowhere. A strange souvenir that hints at a land not yet discovered. A land that was at the time only a rumor, a whisper of a future generation. A land that would eventually become the tropical paradise of Alola. And the mystery of that souvenir, and the foreshadowing it carried, is a story for the next chapter. We talked about Mirage Island, about how a single number hidden deep inside a Pokemon's code could decide whether a whole island existed or vanished. That's a strange kind of magic, isn't it? The idea that the game itself is keeping secrets from you. secrets that might never be found by any ordinary player. But what if I told you that sometimes the Pokémon world doesn't just hide its secrets in code, sometimes it hides them in plain sight, years before you could possibly understand what you're looking at. Let me tell you about a Souvenir, a strange Tiki-like statue that first appeared in Pokémon X and Y, the games set in the Kalos region. If you played those games, you might remember it. You could find it in a shop in Ambret Town, a coastal village where the air smells of salt and the sea stretches out toward an unseen horizon. The item was called the Strange Souvenir, and its description was deceptively simple. It said, "A statue that is so strange that many are perplexed by its existence." That's all. No explanation. No hint of where it came from. Just a little wooden figurine with a carved face, a headdress, and a posture that felt almost reverent. Most players picked it up, glanced at it, and moved on. It was just a decorative item, something to fill a shelf in your player room. But if you looked closely, if you really studied that little statue, you might have noticed something unsettling. It didn't look like anything from Kalos. It didn't look like anything from Kanto or Yoto or Hoenn or Sinnoh or Unova. It looked like it belonged somewhere else entirely, somewhere far away, across an ocean you hadn't yet crossed. And that's the first clue. The Strange Souvenir was a traveller. It had arrived in Kalos from a distant region, brought by someone or something that had crossed the sea. The item itself was a message, a piece of a puzzle that wouldn't make sense for years. Because when Pokémon Sun and Moon were released in 2016, set in the tropical region of Alola, players who remembered that little statue felt a chill run down their spines. There in Alola were the Tapu Guardians, Tapu Koko, Tapu Bulu and Tapu Fini, and they looked exactly like the Strange Souvenir. The connection was undeniable. The Tiki-like statue from Kalos was a crude representation of the Tapu, the guardian deities of Alola. But how? How could a souvenir from a region based on France contain a depiction of gods from a region based on Hawaii? The games are set in the same world, yes, but the distance between Kalos and Alola is vast. And yet, someone had brought that knowledge across the sea. Someone had carved that statue and carried it to a distant land, long before the events of X and Y ever took place. This is where the Pokémon world starts to leak information across generations. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The developers at Game Freak love to plant seeds that won't bloom for years. They scatter clues like breadcrumbs, and if you're paying attention, you can see the shape of the future hidden in the past. The Strange Souvenir is one of the most elegant examples of this. It's a piece of Alola sitting quietly in a shop in Kalos, waiting for you to find it and wonder. But the mystery doesn't end there, because the Strange Souvenir isn't just a statue. It's a symbol of a much larger theme that runs through the entire Pokémon mythos. The idea of travelers from across the sea bringing forbidden knowledge. Over and over again, we hear stories of outsiders arriving on distant shores, carrying with them secrets that change the world. In Alola, the Tapu Guardians themselves are said to have protected the region from such outsiders. The Ultra Beasts, creatures from another dimension, are described as invaders from beyond. And yet, here we have a statue that suggests that the people of Kalos already knew about Alola's gods, perhaps long before Alola was even discovered by the outside world. What does that mean? It means that the history of the Pokémon world is not a straight line, it's a web. Cultures have touched each other, exchanged ideas, and left behind fragments of their beliefs in places where they shouldn't belong. The Strange Souvenir is a physical reminder that the legends we think we understand are only part of a much larger story. The Tapu Guardians are not just local deities, they are beings whose influence, or at least whose image, has travelled across the globe. And this is where we start to see the pattern. The Pokémon world is full of these cross-generational echoes. The Unown, those strange symbol Pokémon, appear in ruins that predate any known civilization. The Regis are sealed in chambers that use a language that no one speaks anymore. The legendary beasts of Yoto were resurrected by Ho-Oh, but we don't know what they were before. Every generation adds a new layer to the mystery, but it never fully resolves the old ones. Instead, it connects them. It weaves them together into a tapestry that grows more intricate with every release. The strange Souvenir is a perfect example of this. It's a tiny, almost insignificant item, but it carries the weight of an entire region's mythology. It tells us that the people of Kalos, or at least some traveller passing through, knew about the Tapu Guardians long before we ever set foot on Alola's beaches. And that raises a question that the games never answer. Who brought that knowledge? Was it a sailor who had seen the islands? A merchant who traded with Alolan villages? Or was it something stranger? Something that hints at a deeper connection between the regions? A connection that the games have only hinted at. Think about the recurring theme of travellers from across the sea. In the lore of the Pokémon world, outsiders are often seen as a threat. They bring change, and change is dangerous. The Tapu Guardians themselves are fiercely protective of their islands, and they have been known to judge outsiders harshly. And yet, here we have a statue that suggests that Alola's gods were known to the outside world, perhaps even revered. It's a contradiction that the games never resolve, and that's exactly why it's so compelling. The strange Souvenir is a door. It's a door that opens onto a mystery that spans generations, connecting Kalos and Alola in ways that the games never fully explain. And as we stand on the threshold, we can't help but wonder what other secrets are waiting for us, hidden in plain sight, in the items we pick up and the places we visit. The Pokémon world is full of these little mysteries, these fragments of a larger story that we may never fully piece together. And that brings us to something even stranger, something that takes the idea of travellers from beyond and pushes it to its absolute limit. Because the next chapter in this story isn't about a souvenir from across the sea, it's about creatures that didn't come from across the sea at all. They came from somewhere far more alien, somewhere that challenges everything we think we know about the boundaries of reality itself. We're about to step into the world of Ultra Beasts, life from the beyond. The strange Souvenir from Kalos was never just a trinket. It was a warning carved in stone, a message from a region that didn't exist yet in the games. When you held that small angular figure in Pokémon X and Y, you were holding a prophecy. It depicted a creature with a single glowing eye, a being that seemed to be part machine, part living armor, and for years, players wondered what it meant. Then Generation 7 arrived, and we learned the truth. That souvenir was a crude representation of a being from another dimension entirely. It was an Ultra Beast. This is where the Pokémon world cracks open. For 20 years, we believed the universe of Pokémon was contained within a single reality. There were regions, sure, but they all followed the same physical laws. Gravity worked. Evolution happened. Type matchups made sense. Then Alola introduced us to the Ultra Wormholes, and everything changed. The Ultra Beasts are not from our world. They are not Pokémon in the traditional sense. They are invasive species from dimensions where biology itself operates on different rules. Let that sink in for a moment. The creatures we call Pokémon, from Pidgey to Arceus, all share a common genetic framework. They can breed, they can evolve, they can be caught in Pokeballs. Ultra Beasts break every one of those rules. They cannot breed with any known Pokémon. They do not evolve in any way we understand. And when you try to catch one, the game itself treats them differently. They are classified as Ultra Beasts, not Pokémon, in the internal code. The Pokédex even has a separate section for them. The games are telling us, explicitly, that these are not the same kind of life. The first one we truly encountered, the one that set the tone for everything, was Nihilego. It appears as a translucent, jellyfish-like entity, beautiful and ethereal, but its beauty is a trap. Nihilego is a parasite. It does not attack with brute force. Instead, it releases neurotoxins that bind to the nervous system of its host. In the story of Pokémon Sun and Moon, this firsthand. Lusamine, the president of the Ether Foundation, becomes obsessed with the Ultra Beasts. She wants to preserve them, to protect them, to keep them safe from harm. But Nihilego does not understand her intentions. It only understands its own nature. When Lusamine is exposed to Nihilego's toxins, she does not die. She becomes something else. Her body fuses with the creature, and her mind is warped. She becomes a monstrous hybrid, a being that is part human, part ultra beast. The game shows us this transformation in horrifying detail. Her skin takes on a glassy, translucent quality. Her eyes become vacant. She speaks in a distorted voice, repeating phrases that sound like they come from a broken recording. This is not a possession in the traditional sense. It is a biological takeover. Nihilego does not want to control Lusamine's mind. It wants to use her body as a vessel, a puppet made of flesh and bone. The trauma of this event ripples through the entire Ether Foundation. Lily, Lusamine's daughter, is forced to watch her mother become a monster. Gladion, her son, spends years trying to find a way to save her. The Foundation itself, built to protect Pokemon, becomes a prison for the very creatures it sought to understand. And at the center of it all is Nihilego, a being that does not feel malice. It is not evil. It is simply following its instincts. Instincts that evolved in a world where parasitism is the norm. This is the core of the Ultra Beast mystery. They are not malicious. They are alien. Their biology is so different from ours that we cannot even classify them using the same taxonomy. The games give us hints about their home dimensions, but those hints only deepen the mystery. Take Guzzlord, for example. Guzzlord is a massive draconic creature with a gaping maw that takes up most of its body. It is described in the Pokédex as having an appetite that can consume entire mountains. But the most terrifying detail comes from its home dimension. In the games, you can travel to Ultraspace and visit the worlds where these creatures originated. Guzzlord's world is a ruined wasteland. The sky is a sickly orange. The ground is cracked and barren. There are no buildings, no signs of life, nothing but rubble and dust. The implication is clear. Guzzlord consumed everything. It ate its own world. It is not a predator that hunts for food. It is a force of consumption, a living natural disaster that cannot be stopped, only contained. And the fact that it exists at all suggests that its home dimension was once full of life, life that is now gone, devoured by its own apex predator. Think about what that means. In our world, ecosystems have checks and balances. Predators keep prey populations in check, and prey evolve defenses. In Guzzlord's dimension, there were no such balances. The creature evolved to consume without limit, and it did. It ate until there was nothing left, and now it wanders the ruins of its own civilization, eternally hungry, eternally searching for something to fill the void. When an ultra wormhole opens and Guzzlord steps through into Alola, it is not invading. It is foraging. It is looking for its next meal in a universe that has already run out of food. The Ultra Beasts force us to reconsider what it means to be a Pokemon. They are not our friends. They are not our enemies. They are refugees from realities so different from ours that we cannot even comprehend their motivations. The Ether Foundation tried to study them, to understand them, and they nearly destroyed themselves in the process. The player character succeeds in stopping them, but only by using the power of other legendary Pokemon, beings that are native to our world and understand its rules. And yet, the question remains, if Ultra Beasts are not Pokemon, what are they? Are they the equivalent of Pokemon in their own dimensions, or are they something else entirely? A form of life that exists outside the framework we use to understand the universe. The games never give us a definitive answer. They leave the question open, hanging in the air, like the afterimage of an ultra wormhole closing. This is the beauty of the mystery. Pokemon has always been a world of wonder and discovery, but the Ultra Beasts represent something darker. They are a reminder that our world is not the only world, that there are places where the rules are different, where life evolves in ways we cannot predict, and where the things we consider sacred, like the bond between trainer and Pokemon, simply do not apply. As we drift deeper into the night, consider the implications. The ultra wormholes are still out there. They open and close at random, connecting our reality to countless others. We have only seen a handful of the beings that live on the other side. What else is waiting in the dark? What other dimensions exist just beyond the veil of our perception? The answer may come in the form of a light, a blinding, consuming light that threatens to eclipse everything we know. That story, the story of the Necrozma Eclipse, is one we will explore in our next chapter. For now, let the mystery of the Ultra Beasts settle into your mind like a distant star, cold and unreachable, but always watching. We ended the last chapter standing at the edge of another dimension, staring at creatures that were not quite Pokemon. The Ultra Beasts, we said, were life from the beyond. They were alien, yes, but they were also just the beginning of a much stranger truth. Because if you travel far enough through those ultra wormholes, past the dizzying lights and the impossible geometries, you eventually arrive at a world that is dying. And at the heart of that dying world, there is a creature that was once a god of light and is now a monster of pure unending hunger. This is the story of Necrozma, the Blinding One, and the tragedy of a legendary Pokemon that is literally falling apart. To understand Necrozma, you have to understand the world it came from. That world is called Ultra Megalopolis, and it is a place of perpetual twilight. The sky there is not blue. It is a bruised, dark purple, streaked with the faintest remnants of what must have once been a brilliant sun. The cities are built from strange crystalline materials, and they are empty. Not abandoned in the sense of a ghost town, but empty in the way a tomb is empty. The people who live there, the Ultra Recon Squad, are the last remnants of a civilization that is slowly suffocating. They are tall, thin and pale, dressed in white armor that seems to absorb the dim light, and they are desperate. The history of the Ultra Recon Squad is the history of a world that lost its light. Long ago, their planet was bathed in the radiance of a benevolent being. This being was Necrozma, but not the Necrozma we know. This was Necrozma in its original form, a creature of pure prismatic light. It was a source of energy, of warmth, of life itself. The people of Ultra Megalopolis revered it. They built their civilization around its light. They grew powerful, and they grew complacent. And then, something went terribly wrong. We do not know exactly what happened. The records are fragmented, the memories faded, but the result is clear. Necrozma was attacked, or it was drained, or it was simply betrayed. Whatever the cause, its light was stolen. And when the light went out, the Blinding One did not simply die, it transformed. It became something else. The radiant, benevolent being became a black, jagged, insectoid horror. It became a creature of pure hunger, a walking void that consumed light wherever it could find it. The people of Ultra Megalopolis watched their god become a monster, and they watched their world begin to die. That is the tragedy of Necrozma. It is a legendary Pokemon that is literally falling apart. Look at its design. It is not a complete creature. It is a skeleton, husk, a collection of sharp edges and missing pieces. Its body is covered in dark, crystalline protrusions that look like broken shards of a larger whole. Its head is a jagged, faceted thing with a single glowing eye that seems to search desperately for something it has lost. And its arms, those long, spindly arms, end in claws that are not meant for grasping. They are meant for piercing, for draining, for absorbing. Necrozma is not evil. It is broken. It is a creature that was once whole and is now a fragment of itself, driven by an instinct it cannot control. It does not want to destroy. It wants to be whole again. But the only way it knows how to do that is to consume light. And so it travels through the ultra wormholes, drawn to any source of brightness it can find. It came to the Alola region because Alola is bathed in light. The sun there is strong. The Z crystals glow with the power of the island guardians, and the people themselves radiate a warmth that Necrozma can sense from across dimensions. When Necrozma arrives in Alola, it does not come as a conqueror. It comes as a parasite. It attaches itself to the land, and it begins to drain. It blots out the sun, plunging the islands into a darkness that is deeper than night. This is the Necrozma Eclipse, a phenomenon that is not natural. It is the feeding of a dying god. The people of Alola panic. the Pokémon hide, and the player character, guided by the Ultra Recon Squad, must venture into the heart of the darkness to stop it. But here is the thing about Necrozma. It is not just a powerful Pokémon, it is the most powerful entity ever recorded in the series. And I do not say that lightly. We have talked about Arceus, the creator. We have talked about the cosmic forces of time and space. But Necrozma, in its true form, is something else entirely. In the games, when you finally confront Necrozma in its base form, you are fighting a wounded animal. It is strong, yes, but it is not at its peak. The real battle comes when it absorbs the light of Solgaleo or Lunala, the legendary Pokémon of the sun and the moon. When it does that, it transforms into its true form, Ultra Necrozma. Ultra Necrozma is a being of light. It is not the broken, jagged creature we saw before. It is a radiant, four-legged beast of pure, blinding energy. Its body is covered in glowing, crystalline armor. Its tail is a long, flowing ribbon of prismatic light, and its eyes, those eyes that were once desperate and hungry, are now calm and serene. It has regained its light. It has become whole again, and it is terrifying. The stats of Ultra Necrozma are absurd. Its base stat total is 754, which is higher than Arceus, higher than Mewtwo, higher than anything else in the entire franchise. It has an ability called Neuroforce, which increases the damage of super effective moves, and it has a move called Photon Geyser, which ignores the target's abilities and deals damage based on whichever stat is higher, its attack or its special attack. In other words, Ultra Necrozma is a perfect, unstoppable engine of destruction. It is the ultimate expression of light as power. But here is the tragedy. That form, that beautiful, perfect form, is not sustainable. Necrozma cannot hold on to its light. It burns through it too quickly, and when the light fades, it reverts to its broken, hungry state. It is a creature that can taste wholeness for only a moment before it is torn apart again. That is why it is so desperate. That is why it is so dangerous. It is not a villain. It is a victim of its own nature. The Ultra Recon Squad knows this. They have lived with the consequences of Necrozma's fall for generations. They are not trying to destroy it. They are trying to save it. They want to restore its light, not just for their own world, but for Necrozma itself. They are the last caretakers of a dying god, and they carry that burden with a quiet dignity that is almost heartbreaking. When they speak to you in the games, their voices are calm, but their eyes are tired. They have seen their world fade. They have seen their god suffer, and they are asking you, a child from another dimension, to help them fix what was broken so long ago. And you do. In the end, you defeat Ultra Necrozma, not by killing it, but by weakening it enough to capture it. And when you do, something remarkable happens. The light returns to Ultra Megalopolis. The sky brightens. The crystals glow. The people emerge from their shelters, blinking in the sudden radiance. Necrozma, now in your possession, is no longer a threat. It is a companion. It is a Pokémon. And it is, for the first time in centuries, at peace. But the questions remain. What happened to Necrozma in the first place? Who stole its light? Was it a rival civilization? A cosmic accident? Or was it something darker? Something that we have not yet seen? The games do not give us a clear answer. They leave the mystery intact. Like so many of the legends we have explored in this series, and that is perhaps the most fitting ending for Necrozma's story. It is a creature of light and shadow, of wholeness and fragmentation, of tragedy and hope. It is a mystery that we can never fully solve, but that we can never forget. And as the light fades on Ultra Megalopolis, a different kind of darkness is gathering in another region. A darkness that does not come from a single creature, but from a cataclysm that shook the very foundations of the Pokémon world. It is called the Darkest Day, and it is a storm that will not be stopped by light alone. That is the story we will turn to next. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. From the blinding hunger of Necrozma, we turn to a different kind of cosmic horror, one that sleeps beneath a region built on prosperity and sport. In the Galar region, the sun rises over stadiums and cheering crowds, but the ground beneath those stadiums holds a secret that rewrites everything you thought you knew about the Pokémon world. This is the story of the Darkest Day, and it begins not with a legend, but with an infection. Eternatus is not a Pokémon in the way we usually understand the term. It is an extraterrestrial entity, a creature from beyond the stars that crash-landed on the Galar region 20,000 years ago. When it arrived, it brought with it a strange purple energy that seeped into the very land itself. This energy, which the people of Galar would later call Dynamax energy, is not a natural phenomenon. It is a foreign substance, an alien infection that spread through the soil, the water, and the air. The Pokémon of Galar began to grow to enormous sizes, their bodies warped and distorted by this strange power. But the true nature of this transformation was never understood by the people who came to rely on it. The ancient Galarians, witnessing the arrival of Eternatus and the sudden appearance of giant Pokémon, did not see an infection, they saw a catastrophe. The creature from the sky unleashed a wave of pure energy that caused Pokémon to rampage across the land, their forms swelling to monstrous proportions. This was the Darkest Day, a day of chaos and destruction that threatened to consume the entire region. In the face of this apocalypse, two Pokémon rose to meet the threat, Zacian and Zamazenta. The legend tells us that these two warriors, one wielding a sword and the other a shield, fought against the great evil and sealed it away, saving Galar from certain doom. The story is taught to every child in the region, and statues of the two heroes stand in the center of every major city. But the truth is far more complicated and far more unsettling. The history of the Darkest Day has been rewritten, sanitized, and repurposed to serve the needs of the Galar region's ruling class. The two heroes, Zacian and Zamazenta, were not simply noble protectors who defeated a monster. They were the ones who realized that Eternatus could not be destroyed. It could only be contained. And so they did not kill the extraterrestrial entity. They drained it of its power, siphoning the Dynamax energy from its body and storing it within the very earth of Galar. Eternatus was left as a hollow shell, a sleeping heart buried deep beneath the surface, still pulsing with a fraction of its original power. This is where the story takes its darkest turn. The kings of Galar, the ancestors of the modern-day Chairman Rose, discovered that the energy left behind by Eternatus could be harnessed. They built a society on it. They created the Galar Power Spots, locations where the Dynamax energy is most concentrated, and they constructed stadiums on top of them. The entire culture of Galar, the gym challenges, the championship battles, the massive crowds cheering for giant Pokémon, is built on a sleeping cosmic horror. Every time a Pokémon Dynamaxes in a stadium, it is drawing power from the alien entity that nearly destroyed the region millennia ago. The people of Galar celebrate their greatest tradition while standing on the grave of an apocalypse. The revisionist history is most visible in the statues of Zacian and Zamazenta. In the modern day, these statues depict the two heroes as majestic, almost regal figures, standing proudly with their sword and shield. But there is an older mural, hidden away in the depths of the slumbering Weald, that tells a different story. In that mural, Zacian and Zamazenta are not triumphant. They are exhausted, their bodies battered, their eyes hollow. They are not standing over a defeated enemy. They are standing over a sealed one, and the expression on their faces is not victory. It is vigilance. It is the look of guardians who know that the thing they have trapped will never truly die. The mural also reveals something else that the official history has buried. The two heroes were not alone. There was a third figure, a king, who orchestrated the entire event. This king, whose name has been erased from the records, was the one who first discovered Eternatus after its crash landing. He was the one who realized that the creature's energy could be used to grant power to humans and Pokémon alike. He was the one who, when the Darkest Day began, did not try to stop it. He tried to control it. The legend of Zacian and Zamazenta as selfless heroes is a convenient fiction created to hide the truth that the entire catastrophe was caused by human ambition. The king's plan failed, of course. Eternatus could not be controlled, and the Darkest Day spiraled into chaos. Zacian and Zamazenta were forced to intervene, not to save the king, but to save the region from his mistake. And when the dust settled, the king's role was erased from history. The story was rewritten to make the two Pokémon the sole heroes, and the king was forgotten. But the evidence remains. The mural in the Slumbering Weald shows a human figure standing between the two warriors, and his hands are not raised in surrender, they are raised in command. This is the hidden truth of Galar. The region's prosperity, its culture, its very identity is built on a lie. The Dynamax energy that powers the stadiums is the same energy that once threatened to destroy everything. The Pokémon that grow to enormous sizes in battle are not displaying a natural ability. They are being infected momentarily by the remnants of an alien presence. And the two heroes that everyone worships are not saviors. They are jailers, forever watching over a prisoner that can never be released. But the question that haunts this story is whether the prison will hold. Eternatus is not dead, it is sleeping. And every time a trainer Dynamaxes their Pokémon in a stadium, they are drawing on the power of that sleeping entity. They are reminding it that it still exists. They are feeding it, in a way, with the energy of their battles and the cheers of their crowds. The Darkest Day was not an event that ended. It was an event that was postponed, and the clock is always ticking. In the depths of Area Zero, a different kind of secret waits to be uncovered, a place where time itself has fractured, and the past and future have begun to bleed into one another. The Paradox Pokémon of Area Zero are not legends, they are warnings, and they will challenge everything you think you know about the boundaries of reality. The Darkest Day ended not with a final answer, but with a sealed wound. Eternatus was captured, Dynamax energy was contained, and the legend of Galar was rewritten by the victors. But the question that lingered, the one that always lingers in this franchise, was whether the truth had been buried or simply transformed. And if you thought the distortion of time and space in Galar was strange, you have not yet descended into the great crater of Paldea. Paldea is a region defined by a single impossible feature at its heart. The Great Crater is a wound in the earth so vast and so deep that it seems to pierce the planet itself. It is not a mountain, not a valley, but a hole, a chasm that has existed for as long as anyone can remember. And at the bottom of that crater lies Area Zero, a place that the modern world has barely touched. The researchers who first explored it came back with stories that did not make sense. They found creatures that looked like Pokémon from the distant past, creatures that looked like Pokémon from a future that had not yet happened. And they found something else. They found a turtle, small and unassuming, with a crystal shell that seemed to absorb light. That turtle was Terrapagos. Now you have to understand the context of Area Zero to grasp why Terrapagos is so unsettling. The crater is not just a hole in the ground. It is a place where the fabric of reality seems to thin. The crystals that grow there are not ordinary minerals. They are crystallized energy that seems to respond to thought, to memory, to imagination. The Paradox Pokémon, as they came to be called, are not fossils. They are not time travelers in the traditional sense. They are something far stranger. Consider Roaring Moon. It looks like a prehistoric version of Salamence, a dragon from an era before humans walked the earth. Its wings are massive, its jaws are lined with teeth that seem too large for its skull, and its eyes burn with a primal ferocity. But here is the problem. Salamence is a Pokémon that evolves from Bagon, which evolves from Shelgon. There is no fossil record of a Salamence ancestor. There is no evolutionary branch that leads to Roaring Moon. It simply appears in Area Zero as if it has always been there, but the timeline does not support it. It is a creature that should not exist, yet it does. Then there is Iron Valiant. It looks like a robotic fusion of Gardevoir and Galard, a being of pure metal and energy, with blades for arms and a face that is both beautiful and terrifying. It is sleek, futuristic, and utterly alien. But Gardevoir and Galar are not robots. They are psychic and fighting types, creatures of flesh and emotion. Iron Valiant is a machine, a construct that should belong to a civilization that has not yet been born, and yet there it is, walking through the crystal fields of Area Zero as if it owns the place. So, what are they? Are they actual ancestors and descendants, pulled through time by some cosmic accident, or are they something else entirely? The imagination theory suggests that the Paradox Pokémon are not real in the way we understand reality. They are manifestations of thought, of collective belief, of the stories that humans and Pokémon tell about the past and the future. The Great Crater of Paldea is not a time portal. It is a place where imagination becomes flesh. Think about it. The ancient Pokémon of Area Zero look exactly like the creatures we imagine when we think of prehistoric life. They are exaggerated, dramatic, almost cartoonish in their primal features. The future Pokémon look like the robots we dream of, sleek, metallic, and efficient. They are not random. They are archetypal. They are the dinosaurs and the androids of our collective unconscious, given form by the energy of Terapagos. Terapagos is the key to this mystery. Its shell is not just a shield. It is a lens, a prism that focuses the energy of the crater into a reality warping field. When Terapagos is present, the boundaries between what is real and what is imagined begin to blur. The Paradox Pokémon are not time travelers. They are dreams that have learned to walk, and that is why they are so unsettling. Because if the Paradox Pokémon are manifestations of imagination, then what does that say about the world we live in? If a creature like Roaring Moon can exist simply because someone, somewhere, believed it could, then the entire history of Pokémon is called into question. Are the fossil Pokémon real, or are they reconstructions that have become real? Are the legendary beasts the original forms of 3 unknown Pokémon, or are they the embodiment of a story that Ho-Oh told to the world? The timeline of the Pokémon universe is not a straight line. It is a web, a tapestry that is constantly being rewoven by the act of telling stories. Area Zero is the place where that tapestry is visible, where the threads of past, present, and future are laid bare, and Terapagos is the weaver, the silent architect of a reality that is far more fragile than we ever imagined. The unsettling nature of Iron Valiant and Roaming Moon is not that they are impossible, it is that they are possible in a way that undermines everything we thought we knew. They are proof that the world of Pokémon is not bound by the laws of physics as we understand them. It is bound by the laws of narrative, and narrative can be rewritten. So the next time you see a Paradox Pokémon, ask yourself not where it came from, but who dreamed it into existence. Because the answer might be closer than you think, it might be you. And that brings us to a different kind of ruin, a different kind of ancient power. The Ruinous Quartet of Paldea are not dreams. They are nightmares that were sealed away for a reason. And their story begins with a single, unassuming cup of tea. The Great Crater of Paldea left us with a question that lingers like a half-remembered dream. Are the Paradox Pokémon real travelers from another time? Or are they something born from the imagination of the machine that discovered them? That uncertainty, that blurring of what is true and what is believed, is a thread that runs through the oldest stories in the Pokémon world, and nowhere is that thread more tangled, more stained with the weight of human emotion than in the tale of the Ruinous Quartet. These 4 Pokémon, Wolchin, Qianpao, Tinglu, and Qiyu, are not like the other legendaries we have explored. They are not creators, not guardians of time or space, not heroes who saved a region from a cataclysm. They are the treasures of the East that were corrupted by human greed and hatred. And that corruption is not a side detail. It is the entire foundation of their existence. Long ago, in the land that would one day become the region of Paldea, there were 4 treasures. They were objects of immense beauty and power, crafted by human hands with the finest materials. A set of wooden tablets carved with ancient wisdom, a sword forged from the purest ore, a vessel shaped from the earth itself, and a set of beads, each one a gem of fiery red. These were not mere trinkets. They were symbols of prosperity, of knowledge, of strength, of passion. They were meant to be the best of what humanity could create. But humanity is not always kind to its own creations. Greed crept in, hatred festered. The treasures became objects of desire, of conflict, of war. People killed for them. People betrayed their own kin for them. And as the blood soaked into the wood, the metal, the stone and the gems, something began to stir. The treasures did not remain silent. They absorbed the negative energy around them, the rage and the sorrow and the malice, and they awakened. How Warchin, Chin-Pao, Ting-Lu and Chi-Yu represent negative legends is not a matter of simple classification. They are not merely dark-type Pokémon because of some arbitrary design choice. They are living embodiments of the worst aspects of the human heart. Warchin, the tablet Pokémon, is the embodiment of resentment and grudges held too long. Its body is made of withered vines and moss, clinging to the tablets like the bitterness of a memory that will not fade. Chien-Pao, the sword Pokémon, is the embodiment of wrath, a blade that hungers for revenge, its fangs dripping with a cold fury that freezes the air around it. Ting-Lu, the vessel Pokémon, is the embodiment of fear, a massive, earth-shaking presence that drains the courage from all who draw near. And Chi-Yu, the bead Pokémon, is the embodiment of envy, a fire that burns not with warmth, but with a desire to consume what others have. They are not villains in the traditional sense. They are more like forces of nature, but a nature that was poisoned by human hands. They did not choose to become what they are. They were made. And that is a profoundly uncomfortable truth for a world that so often celebrates the bond between people and Pokémon. The sealing of the shrines and the weight of historical karma is the next chapter of this story. And it is a chapter that feels more like a curse than a solution. When the Ruinous Quartet first emerged, they did not simply attack. They unleashed a wave of destruction that reshaped the land. The region of Paldea bears the scars of that rampage even now, in the form of the giant craters and the strange twisted terrain that marks the places where they were eventually contained. The ancient people of Paldea, desperate to stop the chaos, built 4 shrines. Each shrine was designed to hold one of the treasures, to seal away the negative energy that had given them life. But sealing is not the same as healing. The shrines are not tombs, they are prisons, and the prisoners have been waiting. For centuries, the Ruinous Quartet have slumbered, their power contained by the very structures that were built to suppress them. But the karma of what happened does not fade. The hatred that created them still lingers in the world. The greed that corrupted them still exists in the hearts of people. The shrines are not eternal. They are maintained by tradition, by ritual, by the vigilance of those who remember the old stories. But memory fades, and when the seals weaken, the treasures stir once more. This is why these legends feel more like traditional yokai than typical Pokémon. In Japanese folklore, yokai are not simply monsters. They are spirits, often born from human emotions, from objects that have been imbued with meaning, from places that have witnessed tragedy. A Tsukumogami, for example, is a tool that gains a soul after 100 years of use, sometimes becoming benevolent, sometimes becoming mischievous or malevolent, depending on how it was treated. The Ruinous Quartet follow that same logic. They are not divine beings. They are not extraterrestrial invaders. They are objects that became something more because of the energy poured into them by people. They are a mirror held up to humanity, reflecting back the worst of what we are capable of. And that is what makes them so unsettling. When you encounter Warchin in the depths of its shrine, or feel the chill of Chien-Pao's presence, or hear the ground tremble as Ting-Lu awakens, or see the flicker of Chi-Yu's flames, you are not facing a creature from another world. You are facing the consequences of your own kind. The Ruinous Quartet are a warning. They are a story that the people of Paldea tell themselves to remember, that power without wisdom, desire without restraint, and emotion without compassion can create something that cannot be easily undone. The shrines still stand, the seals still hold, but the treasures are patient. They have waited for centuries. They can wait a little longer. And the question that hangs over all of this, the question that no one has fully answered, is whether humanity has learned anything at all. That is the weight of historical karma. It is not a punishment from above. It is a debt that accumulates over time, passed down from generation to generation, until someone finally decides to pay it. The Ruinous Quartet are not the debt. They are the interest that has been accruing since the first treasure was stained with blood. And as we drift deeper into the quiet hours of the night, it is worth considering what other debts might be waiting to be collected. The Pokemon world is full of them. There is a theory, one of the oldest and most persistent in the entire franchise, that connects a lonely creature wearing a skull to a mother who cannot recognize her own child. That is the story we will explore next in our 23rd chapter, the Cubone-Kangaskhan Connection. It is a tale of loss, of mistaken identity, and of a bond that may have been broken before it ever had a chance to form. But that is for another night. For now, let the image of those sealed shrines fade into the darkness, and rest easy knowing that some stories are best left unfinished. The treasures of the East, corrupted by human greed, remind us that Pokemon legends often carry a moral weight, a warning about the darkness that can fester in the heart of a civilization. But not all mysteries are born from malice. Some are born from grief, from a missing piece in the evolutionary puzzle that has haunted the fandom for decades. We are re-evaluating the most famous fan theory in the context of modern data, a theory so persistent that it has shaped how two of the most tragic Pokemon in existence. Cubone and Kangaskhan, you know the story. Cubone, the lonely Pokemon, wears the skull of its deceased mother. It cries under the moonlight, its wails echoing through the caves and deserts where it roams. The Pokédex has told us this since the very beginning, but the question that has never been answered is simple. Whose skull is it? For years, the most compelling answer has been that Cubone is not a distinct species at all, but a baby Kangaskhan, orphaned and forced to adapt. The evidence at first was circumstantial but powerful. Early sprites of Cubone and Kangaskhan shared a striking resemblance in posture and facial features. The baby in Kangaskhan's pouch, that perpetually infantile creature, never grows up. It is a biological anomaly, a Pokemon that is born and then remains in a state of suspended development, forever dependent on its mother. What happens to that baby if the mother dies? This is where the theory takes a darker turn, and where we must look at the data hidden in the game's code. The missing no connection and the potential for a deleted evolutionary line is not just a rumour, it is a ghost in the machine. In the original Generation 1 games, there exists a glitch Pokemon known as Missing No, a scrambled entity that appears when the game's data is corrupted. Among the many forms Missing No can take, one of the most infamous is a ghostly garbled version of the Kangaskhan sprite. This has led many data miners and lore enthusiasts to believe that at one point in development, Kangaskhan had a pre-evolution, a baby form that was later removed. That baby form, the theory goes, was repurposed into Cubone. The skull, then, is not just any mother's skull. It is the skull of a Kangaskhan, and the child is wearing the only remnant of its former life. The games have leaned into the mother's skull lore without confirming the species. In later generations, Cubone's design was refined, but the core story remained the same. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, we meet a totem Marowak, a ghostly guardian that protects the remains of its child. The emotional weight is undeniable, and yet Game Freak has never officially stated that Cubone is a Kangaskhan. They have danced around it, allowing the theory to live in the space between official canon and fan speculation. Why? Perhaps because confirming it would close the book on one of the most enduring mysteries, and Pokemon thrives on the unanswered. The biological anomalies of the Kangaskhan baby that never grows up are worth examining more closely. In the real world, a creature that remains in a juvenile state indefinitely is called neotenic, but in the Pokemon world, this is unique. Kangaskhan is the only Pokemon that comes with a baby already attached. A baby that cannot evolve, cannot leave the pouch, and cannot be seen on its own. It is a permanent fixture. This suggests that Kangaskhan's evolutionary line is incomplete. The baby is a stage that was never given its own form, a developmental dead end. If we accept the Cubone theory, then the baby in the pouch is not a separate being. It is the same species at a different life stage. When the mother dies, the baby is forced to grow, to adapt to become something new. It puts on the skull, and it becomes Cubone. It learns to survive alone, and eventually it evolves into Marowak, a Pokemon that has fully accepted its loss. This theory reframes the entire narrative. Cubone is not a separate creature. It is a Kangaskhan that has experienced trauma. The skull is not a trophy, it is a funeral mask. And the reason the baby in the pouch never grows up is because it was never meant to. Its growth was tied to its mother's survival. The deletion of that evolutionary line from the game's code is a digital echo of that loss, a missing piece that the game itself cannot explain. As we sit with this theory, we must ask ourselves what other legends are hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to connect the dots. The Pokemon world is built on these incomplete histories, these fragments of a story that was never fully told. And just when you think you have solved one mystery, another one emerges from the shadows, a creature that exists in the space between two truths. That brings us to the next chapter, where we will explore a being that was never meant to exist at all. A third entity that was erased from the official record, a myth of a third legendary that the games have tried to forget. The Cubone theory, for all its emotional weight, is ultimately a mystery of what was lost. A missing link, a deleted connection, a story the developers chose not to tell. But there is another kind of mystery in Pokemon. One that is not about what is absent, but about what is deliberately placed in the center of a pattern that repeats across generations, across regions, across the very fabric of the Pokemon world. It is the myth of the third legendary. You have likely noticed the trios. The games are filled with them. The legendary birds of Kanto, the beasts of Yoto, the golems of Hoenn, the lake spirits of Sinnoh. But there is a specific kind of trio that appears again and again, one that is not just a set of three equals. It is a trio built around a conflict, a duality, and then a third entity that exists to mediate, to balance, or to contain the fallout. This third member is almost always the strangest, the most alien, and the most misunderstood. And if you look closely, this third legendary is often the only thing standing between the world and total extinction. Consider the weather trio of Hoenn. On one side you have Groudon, the continent builder, the embodiment of the land. On the other, Kyogre, the sea basin expander, the force of the endless ocean. Their awakening in the games of Ruby and Sapphire triggers a catastrophic battle for control of the planet. The world is torn between expansion and submersion, and then there is Rayquaza. Rayquaza does not represent land or sea. It represents the sky, the atmosphere, the space above the conflict. It descends from the ozone layer, not to take a side, but to end the fight. It is the mediator, the enforcer of cosmic peace, and its design reflects that role. It is not a beast of the earth or the deep. It is a serpent of the upper atmosphere, a creature that lives in a realm humans can barely reach. It is the most alien of the three, and it is the key to preventing planetary extinction. Now move to Sinnoh, the creation trio. Dialga, the master of time. Palkia, the weaver of space. Their conflict in the lore is not about territory, but about the fundamental fabric of reality. Time and space cannot coexist without tension. And then there is Giratina. Giratina is not a ruler of a concept like time or space. It is the ruler of the Distortion world, a realm of antimatter, of broken physics, of a reality that exists as a shadow to our own. In the myth, Giratina was banished for its violence. But in Platinum, we learn that its role is not simply that of an outcast. It is the guardian of the balance. When Dialga and Palkia clash, it is Giratina that can pull the conflict into its own dimension, preventing the destruction of the main universe. It is the third member, the most alien, the one that lives in a place that defies all logic, and it is the key to preventing the annihilation of all existence. Then there is Unova, the original dragon, a single being of immense power split into two, Reshiram, the embodiment of truth, Zekrom, the embodiment of ideals, two forces that represent the fundamental philosophical conflict of the human heart. And then there is Kyurem. Kyurem is not a third ideal. It is the empty shell left behind. It is the husk of the original dragon, the part that could not be divided. Its design is jagged, incomplete, frozen. It is a creature of absence, of loss, of a missing center. And yet in Black 2 and White 2, we learn that Kyurem can fuse with either Reshiram or Zekrom, using the DNA splicers, creating a being that is closer to the original. Kyurem is the mediator, not through action, but through potential. It is the vessel that can hold the two halves together. It is the most alien because it is not a complete being. It is a wound. And it is the key to understanding the original dragon, and thus the key to preventing the cycle of conflict from repeating. Kalos gives us the Aura Trio, Xerneas, the Life-Bringer, Yveltal, the Death-Bringer, and Zygarde. Zygarde is the Order-Bringer. It monitors the ecosystem. It watches from below the surface. But here is where the pattern becomes even stranger. Zygarde's role is not immediately obvious in the games. It was introduced in X and Y, but its full story was not told until Sun and Moon, years later. And that story involves Zygarde cells, thousands of cells, scattered across the world, each one a tiny piece of a larger consciousness. When the ecosystem is in danger, these cells gather. They form Zygarde's various forms, culminating in the complete former, a towering serpentine being of green and black, with a core that glows like a pulsating heart. The mystery of the cells is that they are everywhere, hidden in the environment, waiting. Zygarde is not a single creature you can catch and understand. It is a distributed intelligence, a network of pieces that only becomes whole when the world needs it most. It is the most alien of the trio because it is not a singular entity. It is a system, and it is the key to preventing ecological collapse. Finally, consider Galar, the legend of the Darkest Day. Eternatus, the extraterrestrial source of Dynamax energy, fell from the sky and caused chaos. Two heroes, Zacian and Zamazenta, rose to fight it, but they did not defeat it alone. They worked together, a duo of sword and shield, and yet the lore hints at a third force. The third legendary of Galar is not a Pokemon you catch in the main story. It is the concept of the hero itself, the unity of the two. But there is another third. Eternatus itself, when caught, can transform into Eternamax, a form that is almost impossibly powerful, a form that was only ever meant to be fought, not owned. Eternatus is the alien invader, the catalyst, the third element that disrupts the balance, and in a strange way, it is the mediator of the conflict. Because without its arrival, the legend of the heroes would never have been written. The pattern is clear. In each of these trios, the third member is not just a third wheel. It is the one that does not fit the binary. It is the one that exists in the margins, in the sky, in the distortion, in the emptiness, in the scattered cells, in the void of space. It is the most alien because it has to be. It must stand apart from the conflict to resolve it. It must be strange enough to see the bigger picture, and it is always the key to preventing planetary extinction. The third legendary is the failsafe, the emergency protocol, the one that the world does not know it needs until the end of everything. And this brings us to a deeper question. If the third legendary is always the mediator, the alien, the one that saves us, then what does that say about the nature of the Pokemon world? Perhaps it suggests that balance is not found in the clash of opposites, but in the intervention of something outside the system, something that does not belong, something that is not of this world. And that is a profoundly eerie thought, because it means that every time the world is saved, it is saved by the strangest, the most misunderstood, the one that the legends themselves often forget to mention. But there is another ancient language that speaks of such things, a language not of letters, but of shapes, a language carved into stone, hidden beneath the sea, waiting for someone to read it. That is the story of the next chapter, the ancient language of the sea. We've been tracing the patterns of trios, the missing thirds, the mediators that sit between creation and destruction. But there is another kind of ancient language hidden in Pokemon's world. One that doesn't speak through legendaries or cosmic battles. It speaks through stone, through water, through the silent pressure of the deep ocean. And it comes from a king whose name we will never know. Beneath the waves off the coast of Unova, there is a place called the Abyssal Ruins. Most players will never see it without a guide, without a deep understanding of the game's hidden mechanics. It is not a dungeon you stumble into. It is a descent, layer by layer, into a structure that feels older than any civilization we have records for. The ruins are composed of multiple floors, each one deeper than the last, and each one covered in inscriptions. These are not Pokédex entries. They are not flavor text. They are messages left behind by a king who ruled over a kingdom that has long since vanished into the sea. The Abyssal Ruins are unique as they require the player to decipher a code. The game gives you no Rosetta Stone. You have to bring a Pokemon that knows the move dive, and you have to navigate through currents and chambers, reading the walls as you go. The messages are fragmented, but they repeat a single, haunting refrain. The king's words are simple, almost childlike in their purity. He writes, "Love all, be pure, eat no more." These are the cryptic commandments of a lost era, and they raise more questions than they answer. Who was this king? Why did he feel the need to leave these instructions for future generations? And why are they found at the bottom of the ocean? In a place that seems deliberately hidden from the surface world, the inscriptions suggest a ruler who was deeply concerned with the moral state of his people. He wanted them to love without reservation, to live without corruption, and to abstain from something. Perhaps from consuming Pokemon, perhaps from consuming anything at all. The phrase "eat no more" is the most puzzling. It could be a literal dietary restriction, a spiritual practice, or a metaphor for greed. But the fact that it is carved into stone, repeated across multiple floors, implies it was the central tenet of his entire philosophy. Now, here is where the mystery deepens, and where the connection to the wider legendary lore becomes impossible to ignore. The Abyssal Ruins are not the only place in Pokemon where we find ancient writing. The plates that Arceus scattered across the world are also inscribed with text. Those plates are tied directly to the creation myth of the entire Pokemon universe. They are fragments of a divine being's power, and they contain language that is just as cryptic as the king's commandments. Some theorists believe that the Abyssal Ruins and the Arceus plates are connected, that the same ancient script, or a derivative of it, appears in both locations. If that is true, then the unnamed king was not just a local ruler. He was part of a global prehistoric religion, a faith that worshipped a single king above all others. Think about what that means. The Pokemon world has multiple regions, each with its own creation stories, its own legendary Pokemon, its own local deities. But the Abyssal Ruins suggest that at some point in the distant past, there was a unified belief system, a religion that spread across the world, carried by a civilization that understood the power of the sea and the language of the deep. The king's messages are not just moral advice. They are a record of a lost age, an age when humans and Pokemon lived under a single divine authority. And that authority was not Arceus, at least not directly. It was a king who claimed to speak for the divine, or perhaps who believed he was divine himself. The ruins themselves are a puzzle box. The deeper you go, the more the water pressure increases, the darker the environment becomes, and the more urgent the king's words feel. He writes about the end of his kingdom, about a great flood or a sinking, about the need to preserve his teachings for a future that might never find them. There is a sadness in the inscriptions, a sense of finality. He knew his world was ending, and he wanted to leave something behind, something that would outlast the waves. And yet we never learn his name. The game deliberately withholds it. He is simply the king, a figure without identity, without a face, without a Pokédex entry. He exists only through his words, and those words are as sparse as they are profound. Love all. Be pure. Eat no more. It sounds like a mantra, a prayer, a command. It sounds like the voice of someone who has seen the worst of humanity and is trying to prevent it from happening again. The connection to the Arceus plates is speculative but compelling. The plates contain phrases like, "the being that created the world," and they are written in a language that players cannot read without the proper item. The Abyssal Ruins use a different but similar script, one that the game translates for us. If the same civilization that built the ruins also created the plates, then the king's religion was not just global, it was cosmic. He was trying to codify the will of the creator into a set of rules that any human could follow. But why the sea? Why bury your legacy at the bottom of the ocean, where only a few explorers with specialized Pokemon could ever reach it? Perhaps the king believed that the sea was the only safe place. The surface world was corrupt, filled with war, greed, and consumption. The sea, by contrast, was eternal. It would preserve his words until the end of time, and in a way, it has. The ruins remain one of the most obscure locations in the entire franchise, a secret that most players will never fully explore. They are a testament to the idea that Pokemon's world is layered, that beneath the cheerful battles and the friendly rivalries, there is a history of loss, of faith, and of a king who tried to save his people with nothing but 3 simple commands. The mystery of the Abyssal Ruins is not just about what the king said, it is about what he left unsaid. Why did he never name himself? Why did he never explain what happened to his kingdom? And why, of all the places in the world, did he choose the ocean floor as his final pulpit? The answers are buried with him, beneath the waves, in a language that only the sea can read. But there is another mystery waiting beneath the surface. One that involves a different kind of royalty, a different kind of lineage. It is a story about a Pokemon that is born from the sea, that carries the essence of a legendary within its tiny form, and yet cannot evolve into that legendary no matter how hard it tries. It is a paradox that challenges everything we think we know about genetics, about inheritance, and about the nature of mythical Pokemon themselves. That story is the Manaphy and Phione paradox, and it is waiting for us in the next chapter. We left the Abyssal Ruins with more questions than answers. King's commandments carved into stone beneath the waves, telling us to love all, be pure, and eat no more. But the ocean holds another mystery, one that swims in the opposite direction of everything we think we know about legendary Pokemon. It is the paradox of Manaphy and Phione, a puzzle that breaks the rules of biology, myth, and rarity all at once. Manaphy is a legendary Pokemon. It is classified as a mythical, one of those rare creatures that was never meant to be found in the wild, only given away at special events. And yet Manaphy can breed. That alone is strange. Most legendary Pokemon are sterile, locked into their singular existence, unable to produce offspring. But Manaphy is different. It can lay an egg, and from that egg hatches Phione. And here is where the paradox begins. Phione is also classified as a mythical Pokemon, but it cannot evolve into Manaphy. It cannot evolve into anything. It is a biological dead end. You can breed 2 Phione together, and they will produce more Phione. You can breed a Manaphy with a Ditto, and you will get Phione. But no matter what you do, you will never get another Manaphy from a Phione. The only way to obtain a Manaphy is through an event distribution, a gift from the developers. The lineage is broken. The offspring is a lesser copy, a shadow that cannot ascend. This raises a question that has haunted Pokemon lore for years. Why would a legendary Pokemon be able to breed at all if its offspring cannot become what it is? In the natural world, evolution is a path forward. A child grows into an adult. But in the world of Manaphy and Phione, evolution is a one-way door that only opens for the parent. The child is forever stuck in a state of arrested development, a permanent juvenile that will never know the full power of its progenitor. Some have speculated that Phione is not truly a mythical Pokémon in the same sense as Manaphy. Its Pokédex entry in multiple games describes it as a Pokémon that lives in warm seas, and it can be found in the wild in certain games, like Pokémon Legends, Arceus. That alone is unusual. Mythical Pokémon are supposed to be event exclusive, hidden from the main game, but Phione can be caught, bred and traded freely. It is a mythical in name only, a technicality of classification that feels more like a loophole than a deliberate design, and yet the games insist. Phione is listed as a mythical Pokémon in the official data. It has a base stat total of 480, which is respectable but nowhere near the power of Manaphy's 600. It cannot learn the signature move Heart Swap. It lacks the ability Hydration. It is in every measurable way a lesser version of its parent, but it is still a mythical, and that contradiction is the heart of the paradox. To understand why, we have to look at the Temple of the Sea. This is the legendary structure that appears in the anime and in the games, a mobile palace that drifts through the ocean currents. It is said to be the home of Manaphy, the Prince of the Sea. The title is important. A prince is not a king. Manaphy is a ruler, but it is also a wanderer, a creature that never stays in one place. The Temple of the Sea is not a fixed location. It moves, following the currents, never settling, and Manaphy, as its prince, is always on the move. This nomadic nature might explain the breeding paradox. If Manaphy is a prince, then perhaps Phione is not meant to be a successor. Perhaps Phione is a servant, a helper, a population of lesser beings that support the prince without ever becoming one themselves. In the anime, a group of Phione are shown guiding a Manaphy, protecting it, working together as a collective. They are not individuals striving for greatness. They are a community that exists to serve the singular Manaphy. This would make Manaphy's ability to breed a form of reproduction that is not about lineage, but about maintenance. Manaphy does not create heirs, it creates workers. It populates the ocean with Phione that will care for the Temple of the Sea, that will keep the currents flowing, that will ensure the prince never has to be alone. And in return, those Phione are forever bound to their role. They cannot evolve because they are not meant to. They are the hands, not the head. But this interpretation clashes with the way we normally think about evolution in Pokémon. Evolution is supposed to be growth, improvement, a step toward a greater form. Phione cannot evolve, and that makes it feel incomplete. It is a creature that exists in a state of perpetual potential, forever waiting for a transformation that will never come, and that is deeply unsettling, especially for a mythical Pokémon. The biological dead end of Phione is not a mistake, it is a statement. It tells us that not all legendary Pokémon follow the same rules. Some are born, some are created, and some are simply there, without origin or destination. Manaphy is a wanderer, and its offspring are the footprints it leaves behind, echoes that can never become the source. What does this say about the unique reproductive rules of mythical species? It suggests that the term mythical is not a biological classification, but a narrative one. It is a label applied by humans to creatures that do not fit neatly into the ecosystem. Manaphy and Phione are not part of the natural order. They are anomalies, exceptions that prove the rule, and the rule is that legendary Pokémon are supposed to be alone, but Manaphy refuses to be alone. It breeds, it travels, it leaves a legacy of Phione that will never be its equal, and in doing so, it challenged everything we think we know about what it means to be a legendary. It is a prince without a kingdom, a parent without an heir, a mythical that is also a mother. The ocean is vast and its secrets run deep. We have explored the abyssal ruins and the commandments of a forgotten king. We have followed the Temple of the Sea and the wandering prince, but there is another mystery waiting beneath the surface. One that does not involve water at all. It is a mystery of worlds beyond worlds, of dimensions that overlap and diverge, of a story that was rewritten by a single meteorite. That is the mystery of the Delta episode, and the multiverse that Pokémon has only begun to show us. The previous chapter left us with the strange biological dead end of Phione, a creature that exists in a state of perpetual incompleteness, unable to evolve, unable to truly finish its own story. But what if the problem wasn't biology at all? What if the issue was that Phione, like so many other mysteries, is simply a fragment of a larger truth that exists in a reality we cannot fully access? This is where the Delta episode of Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire takes us, not just into the sky, but into the very fabric of existence itself. The story begins with a woman named Zinnia, the last descendant of the ancient Draconid people. She is not a villain, not exactly, but she is willing to do terrible things to protect a truth that most of the world has forgotten. She stands before the player in the heart of the Sky Pillar, surrounded by the bones of ancient dragons, and she speaks of a catastrophe that has already happened, and a catastrophe that is about to happen. She tells you that the world you live in, the Hoenn you know, is not the only one. There is another Hoenn, a parallel world, a Kanto, a Yoto, a Sinnoh, all existing side by side, separated by a membrane of reality so thin that it might as well be a whisper. And in that other world, Mega Evolution does not exist. It never did. The stones, the keystones, the bond between trainer and Pokémon that unlocks a form beyond form, all of it is absent. That world developed differently, with different technologies, different legends, different truths. And Zinnia's people, the Draconids, have known about this for generations. They have guarded a secret that the modern world has long since dismissed as myth: the link cable. You remember the link cable, of course. In the original games, it was the cord you used to trade Pokémon between two Game Boy systems. It was a physical object, a piece of plastic and wire, that connected two screens and allowed data to flow between them. But in the lore of the Delta episode, the link cable is something far more profound. It is a literal bridge between realities. The Draconids understood that the act of trading, the act of sending a Pokémon from one cartridge to another, was not just a transfer of data, it was a crossing. Every time you traded a Pokémon, you were opening a door between universes, and that Pokémon was traveling across the multiverse. Think about that for a moment. Every individual save file, every copy of Pokémon Ruby or Sapphire or Emerald that has ever existed is its own universe. When you trade a Pokémon from your game to your friend's game, you are not just moving a creature from one box to another, you are sending it across the boundaries of reality. The Pokémon you receive is not the same one your friend had. It is a version of that Pokémon, adapted to the laws of your universe, carrying with it the faint echo of the world it left behind. This is why Zinnia is so desperate. She knows that the ultimate weapon of the ancient world, the device that nearly destroyed everything, was powered by something called infinite energy. This energy was not just a power source. It was the raw stuff of creation, the same force that binds the multiverse together. And the Draconids learned to harness it, to warp space itself, to punch holes between worlds. But every time they used it, they risked tearing the fabric of reality apart. They risked causing a collision between universes, a cataclysm that would erase both worlds in a single silent moment. The morality of the Infinite Energy Project is not simple. The Draconids were not evil. They were trying to save their world from a meteor, a chunk of rock from space that would have ended all life in Hoenn. But their solution was to open a portal to another reality and divert the meteor there, to let it destroy someone else's world instead. They chose to sacrifice an entire universe, a world full of people and Pokémon who had never heard of Hoenn, to protect their own. And when the plan failed, when the meteor was not diverted but merely delayed, they sealed the knowledge away, hoping that future generations would never need to make that choice again. But Zinnia is not content to let the meteor fall. She will do whatever it takes to stop it, even if that means reopening the old wounds, even if that means warping space again, even if that means condemning another universe to destruction. She is a tragic figure, a guardian of a truth that no one wants to hear, carrying the weight of a decision that no one should have to make. And then there is Rayquaza, the sky-high Pokémon, the mediator of the weather trio, the one who keeps Groudon and Kyogre in check. In the Delta episode, Rayquaza becomes something more. It becomes the key to the multiverse. When you ride Rayquaza into space, when you soar beyond the atmosphere and into the void where the meteor waits, you are not just flying, you are breaking the boundaries of your own reality. You are entering a space where the laws of physics are different, where the link cable is not a metaphor, but a literal path between worlds. The meteor itself is not just a rock, it is a fragment of another universe, a piece of a world that was destroyed long ago, drifting through the void until it found its way to Hoenn. And when you destroy it, when you and Rayquaza shatter that ancient stone into a million pieces, you are not just saving your world, you are closing a door that should never have been opened. But the question remains, what about the other Hoenn? The one without mega evolution, the one that was almost sacrificed? Is it still there? Did it survive the meteor? Or did the Draconid's ancient tampering already doom it, leaving only a ghost of a world, a save file that was deleted but never forgotten? These are the questions that the Delta episode leaves us with. It is a story about the cost of survival, the weight of knowledge, and the terrifying truth that every choice we make in our own reality might be destroying another. And it is a story that leads us directly to the next chapter, to a map that was never finished, to a world that was never fully drawn, the unfinished map. We've just crossed the threshold of the multiverse. The Delta episode confirmed what many had suspected, that the Pokémon world is not a single isolated reality, but a web of parallel timelines, each branching from a moment of choice. The link cable, that humble accessory from the earliest games, was revealed as a literal bridge between these worlds. But if the multiverse is real, then every mystery we've explored so far exists in a state of quantum uncertainty. The answers are not lost, they are simply elsewhere. And that brings us to the heart of this chapter, to the idea of the unfinished map. Pokémon has always presented itself as a world of discovery, but the most compelling parts of that world are the blank spaces, the regions marked "Here be dragons" on the old cartographer's charts. We have spent 28 chapters wandering through these gaps, and now we must ask, why are they there? Why do the creators leave these threads hanging for decades, like loose ends in a tapestry that could never be fully woven? The answer lies in the very nature of myth. A complete story is a closed door. It is a museum piece, preserved under glass, admired but no longer alive. An unfinished story, on the other hand, is a living thing. It breathes. It changes. It invites you to step inside and become part of its telling. The legend of the three beasts, the Pokémon that died in the burned tower and were reborn by Ho-Oh's fire, is powerful precisely because we do not know what they were before. Their original forms are a silence in the record, and that silence is fertile ground for imagination. We fill it with our own theories, our own fears, our own hopes. The mystery becomes personal. This is why the weirdness of Pokémon is essential to its longevity as a mythos. A world that explains everything is a world that has exhausted itself. It has nothing left to give, but a world that withholds, that hides its secrets in Braille-inscribed ruins and event-only islands, that leaves the ghost girl in Lumiose City forever wandering. That world is inexhaustible. It is a well that never runs dry. Every generation of players discovers these mysteries anew, and each discovery feels like a personal encounter with something ancient and unknowable. Think of the Unown. They are not just Pokémon. They are a language. They are the building blocks of written communication, given form and sentience. But what are they saying? The ruins they inhabit are covered in their symbols, but the message is never fully translated. Are they a warning, a prayer, a record of a civilization that spoke in glyphs instead of words? The games never tell us, and that is the point. The Unown are a mystery that cannot be solved, only experienced. They are a reminder that some knowledge is not meant to be possessed, but to be witnessed. And then there is the silence of the Distortion world. Giratina's realm is not just a place. It is a philosophical statement. It is a reality where gravity is optional, where time flows sideways, where the rules we take for granted are merely suggestions. The Distortion world is the shadow of our own universe, the part of the map that was never drawn because it cannot be drawn. It exists outside the framework of understanding, and that is what makes it so unsettling. It is a reminder that the Pokémon world, for all its bright colours and friendly creatures, is built on a foundation of cosmic horror. The ancient power that shaped the universe is not benevolent or malevolent. It simply is, and it is indifferent to our need for answers. This recurring theme of loss, silence, and ancient power runs through every generation. The original Dragon of Unova was split into 3, and the empty shell of Kyurem remains as a monument to that division. The Regis were sealed away by a civilization that left only Braille and stone. The GS Ball was introduced, carried across the anime, and then abandoned, like a promise that was never meant to be kept. These are not mistakes, they are deliberate choices. The creators understand that the most powerful stories are the ones that leave room for the listener to complete them. And so we arrive at the final mystery. Why do they do it? Why do they plant these seeds and never let them bloom? The answer, I believe, is that the map is not unfinished because the cartographers ran out of ink. It is unfinished because the territory is infinite. Every answer would only lead to another question, and another, until the map became a tangled knot of explanations that no one could follow. The gaps are not failures of storytelling. They are the storytelling itself. They are the spaces where the myth breathes. Consider the Great Pokémon War, mentioned only in passing, a ghost of a conflict that haunts the Kanto region. We know it happened. We know Lieutenant Surge fought in it, but we know nothing else. Who were the enemies? What were the stakes? How did it end? The silence around this war is more powerful than any detailed account could be. It allows the war to exist in the imagination of every player, shaped by their own understanding of conflict and loss. It becomes a personal myth, a story that belongs to you. And that is the beauty of the unexplained in a world of monsters. Pokémon is not a story about answers. It is a story about wonder. It is about the feeling of standing before a sealed door in a forgotten ruin, knowing that something lies beyond it, but not knowing what. It is about the thrill of the unknown, the chill of the uncanny, the quiet joy of a mystery that will never be solved. The creators leave these threads hanging because they trust us to hold them. They trust us to carry the mystery forward, to pass it on to the next generation of players, to keep the myth alive. So as we close this chapter, and as we prepare to step away from the unfinished map, remember this: the gaps are not empty. They are full of potential. They are the spaces where your imagination can run free, where the legend becomes yours. The Ghost Girl will never stop walking. The Unown will never stop whispering. The Distortion world will always be there, waiting for someone brave enough to step inside. And that is exactly as it should be. The map is unfinished because the journey is not over. It never will be. And that is the most beautiful mystery of all. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.